Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support our show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast. This is Sacred Symbols Plus, a PlayStation podcast supplement. My name is Colin Moriarty, joined today by a very special group of people indeed, including my son, Chris Raygun. Chris, how are you today, my friend?
Oh, man. It's another one of them interesting days. Once again, just laid in bed. No sleep. No sleep this time. Just none. Like, before I got, maybe 30 minutes, an hour. Just laid awake the entire night for some reason. Just couldn't get it. So, I'm it's an interesting day. I had my coffee, though. I went on a walk. I was telling Brad before we started recording, it's finally getting to that point in California where it's like a reasonable temperature. Like it was like 58 degrees this morning. And I was like,
sure,
I'm going to go out I'm going to get some sun. I'm going to walk, put on a jacket and not die. So that was nice. But,
right on, man.
Yeah, I feel good.
Well, okay. We'll see how it goes.
We'll see. Yeah, I might have a coma and die. You know.
Yeah, well, we'll monitor it closely. Good to have you here. Brad Ellis of Summon Sign, welcome. How are you today, my friend?
Hello, everybody. I'm doing good. I just woke up 30 minutes ago, but I'm feeling ready to go. Gonna have a fun day today. Gonna hit the gym after this. Eat some lunch. It's gonna be a nice one.
What are you gonna have for lunch?
I don't know yet. That's a good question. Something not heavy, because I'm gonna go to the gym after.
Yeah, nice little Lunchable.
Yeah, a little Lunchable. Maybe the pizza Lunchable. Yeah, maybe I'll pick that up.
Yeah.
Well, good luck to you. Enjoy your Lunchable. Enjoy your workout. We'll get there eventually.
Good luck to eating.
Yeah, good luck to you. And finally, Gene Park of the Washington Post and Punching Up. How are you today, my friend? Good to see you.
Good. I just received in the mail. Guess what it is? It's the PS5 disc drive.
Oh, that's exciting. Good for you. So
one of the many that got sold out after the announcement of the PS5 Pro. So I am among the canary in the coal mine. Signal to that this thing will be bought by a couple people, or at least owned by a couple of people. I expect that Sony will probably send me one. So, but in advancement of that, I made sure that it'll have a disc drive because I have a lot of discs. So
I never got a console from Sony would send IGN consoles to use or whatever, especially debug consoles, but I never got my own. They never sent me one, which is fine. I never wanted one. I bought my own consoles. But then they sent me the 20th anniversary PS4, which is still in my closet in a box.
Nice.
No way.
And it's apparently one of the most valuable PS4s or PlayStation consoles ever. And it's sealed in box in my closet. That was when they still liked me. That was a long time ago. That was like 10 years ago.
That's great. I actually also just ordered a silver DualSense controller too, because it's the closest thing to looking like a regular PlayStation controller at that fucking 25th anniversary PlayStation controller that they gave Jim Ryan and only Jim Ryan.
Yeah, he deserved it more than anyone. And I
yeah. Here's for securing Concord. See you, Jim.
I think they're going to release it.
Here's the only PlayStation controller with the fucking cool sacred symbols that are different colors on it. But
my suspicion is that, so for people that don't know, the 30th anniversary of PlayStation is this December in Japan. Yeah. I suspect that they're going to do something to celebrate it. So we'll see. Because I would love to get one of those gray controllers. I love that color scheme too. The bright colors, the pop of the PlayStation logo, the Apple-like PlayStation logo. Good shit.
Yeah. The different colors. And we saw that a lot in Astro Bot, and I hope this is a Spoilercast for Astro Bot, right?
Yeah, that's right. You're in the right place.
Yeah. So I hope that because one of those fucking controllers shows up as a reward. So I was like, I wish we could buy that right now,
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that they'll sell that sooner or later.
Well, Gene, can I ask you a question? Is that a Walgreens hat?
No, this is
Nationals.
It's the Washington Nationals, but for whatever reason, their logo looks exactly like Walgreens.
That is crazy. It's real. It's uncanny.
When it's so funny, man, because not that it's like a story anyone cares about, but it always reminds me of this. The Nationals came out. They used to be the Montreal Expos. They moved to Washington. They became the Nationals. This was in 2005, 2006. And I was in college, and my friend was from Washington, and she was wearing that hat. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? And she's like, it's like the Washington Nationals hat. They're coming out next year. I'm like, I've never seen that logo in my entire life. And I'll always think about that with this hat, because it really just did come out of nowhere,
Yeah.
So yeah, but you're a homer. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, it is straight up Walgreens.
Yeah, it's a
straight,
Walgreens.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but
repping.
But God bless.
Gene's like, fuck Rite Aid.
Fuck CVS.
Favorite
My pharmacy.
The fucking pharmaceutical store wars.
Yeah, I wish pharmacy fans fought like a console.
Like console wars. I mean, that's the thing. It's like I've never seen console war fans are so unique because you don't really see this outside of like sports.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
And intercontinental war, I guess, would be the other.
Yeah.
Gene, you're coming a little hot still. Lower your audio just a smidge if you don't mind. Your input.
Right. How does that sound?
Sounds
go
the
down.
same.
Go
10,
down.
9, 8.
You might have to do it in your system settings.
I guess
Maybe.
so.
Because it sounds like it's the gain to me.
Yeah.
But
I'll make sure to cut this out. Hold on a sec. I'll write this down. Might as well nip it in the bud now.
Colin, that PS4 that you have is going on eBay for $1,800.
Nice.
That's fucking crazy.
I'll continue to just keep it in the closet and do nothing with it for the rest of my life. And then when I die, someone will find it. Some company will get hired, like Junk for Less or whatever, and they'll come and clear my house out, and they'll be like, oh shit. And then they'll
throw it out.
And then they'll bring it onto well, that's why I envision with all my toys. Like, who's gonna want any of this shit? It's worth something, but you have to know that, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be on Antiques Roadshow.
Some freak will be like, oh, Colin's G.I. Joes. I gotta get them because they're Collins.
Yeah. It's funny because the G.I. Joes that are all set up are not the ones I played with. The ones that I played with when I was a kid are just put away.
Dude, 2 separate categories, man.
Yeah.
You can divide them up.
Yep. The ones I played with are not for display. They have Colin essence
only.
all over them. That sounds gross. I can't say that.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
Because it was pre-Colin essence. I wouldn't have been able to do that even if I wanted to. I was too young.
Jesus.
Chris is shaking his head.
I'm just
Gene, how are you doing over there on the audio?
10, 9, 8,
Oh, yeah,
7,
that's better.
6.
That sounds better.
Yeah, that's
I
better,
put it down on the system level. So
yeah, that's good.
Oh, sorry, I just got an email. All right, guys, as Gene said, and as you know, because you hit the play button on a video that was labeled with English words. And by the way, Brad, nice spelling of the word emperor.
Yeah,
summon sign.
Spelling mistakes happen, Colin. I don't know if you know that, but they happen every once in a while.
That was brutal. That was a brutal spelling of the word emperor.
Yeah, it's not something I write very often, Colin. So,
are you insulted that I'm making fun of you?
Yeah.
I'm still getting.
If you fight, hey, you make fun of me. I grew up with an older brother too, Colin. I get it. Someone makes fun of you, you fight back. That's the way it goes.
Yeah. Because like when I make fun of Dustin, it looks like he's gonna cry.
Dude, I've been through it, so
yeah.
I'm used to it. Don't worry about
but
it.
But Justin's an only child,
Yeah.
He has like Sarah McLachlan commercial kind of energy.
Right.
When we make fun of it.
Right.
He cries at dogs or something.
I like how Colin says, it looks like Dustin's going to cry every time I do this thing that I do to him multiple times.
Yeah.
Every time, yeah.
I'm the HR person. All right? It's all me.
Imagine if the human resources director of your company says, you look like you're going to fucking cry, pussy.
What are
you gonna fucking cry, you little baby?
I don't know why that's so funny.
I'm still getting to know Brad's boundaries. Pretty wide.
No, it's okay. You can push back, but I'll push back too. So
that's fine. That's
just the way it goes.
I accept that. Because people, I see comments sometimes where they're like, I really like, no one pushes back on Colin. I'm like, I feel like everyone pushes back on me. What the fuck are you talking about?
It's because we don't say fuck you, I'm going to kill you.
Right.
That's true.
That's the only form of conflict that the internet seems to recognize.
I live in a world where I just don't see things the way other people do almost ever. It's strange. Like, it's probably a me problem, but I read some of these things sometimes. I'm like, I don't know what you're saying or what you're talking. Like, did I misremember this whole show? And it's possible. All right. So we figured out Brad's boundaries. We made fun of Dustin, but we're here really to talk about Astro Bot, which came out September 6th, I want to say, and we're getting to it pretty quickly, more quickly than we usually get to games. Obviously, Gene had it early through the Washington Post. We bought it when it came out for Sacred Symbols, but it's short. It actually took me about 25 hours to platinum, but I was dicking around with it a lot. Mm-hmm. And shorter than that, 15 to 20 hours probably for most people. People out there, they're like, you can beat it in 8 hours. No, you can't. Liars. Maybe if you run through it and don't do anything, you can do it in 8 hours.
Yeah.
You could, I think you could, a non-completionist run, if you just like, mainlined it. Yeah, I think you could probably do it in that amount of time.
Yeah,
but
but
that's like such a lame way to play a game like this.
Smell the roses, man.
Yeah,
but you know that people played it that way. They just ran through the stage. The stage took like 45 seconds to finish, and they're like, "All right, well now to the next stage." What a short game!
Yep.
Loser energy. Loser.
Yeah, it is. It is heavy loser energy. Oh my god, what is this? I'm getting all these weird emails from people. Okay. Usually, no, I don't get any emails. I'm so good at purging my inbox of spam and unsubscribing from stuff that when I get emails from random people, I'm like, "What is this? Who is this person? How'd you find me?" And nonetheless, they found me. But enough of that. What we're going to talk about on this show is finding all the 150 Astro Bot VIPs and all the rest in this really wonderful game. And I want to say at the top that I highly recommend Astro Bot. I think it's really, really great. As I said on Sacred Symbols, I don't think it's Game of the Year caliber, but it's up there. It's really, really strong. And I think it's great for everyone. I actually went on Amazon and bought a physical copy for my nephews yesterday, and just to send it to them with one of the little printed notes, being like, "You really guys should really play this game. It's really great." So I'm recommending it to people in my life. I recommend it to everyone out there, PlayStation fans, platformer fans, and so on and so forth. But let's go around the horn and see what everyone thinks. Gene, I'm curious what you think. You had the game for a while and beat it. I think maybe even platinumed it before it came out. And so what are your high level thoughts? Let's go around the horn and hear from everyone. I'll start with you.
I love this game. I gave it a 4 out of 4 stars on the Washington Post. And I do think that it's Game of the Year, and we can get into why and why that might not be either. But I love this game. I did not platinum it before it came out, but I did platinum it last week. I felt bad that I didn't platinum it, and I got pretty much all the bots, but there were a couple missing. All the face button obstacle courses, I realized I didn't finish that, so I was like, okay, well let me go wrap that up. And then there was the Grandmaster and the last couple matches. So really, really enjoyed that. It reminded me how fun it is to platinum games. So Astro Bot is so good that it has actually gotten me into it's turned me into Colin. I'm actually I after Astro Bot, I actually looked up games that I'm close to platinuming, and other games that are easier to platinum. So I'm actually finally replaying Spider-Man 2 to get that New Game Plus platinum trophy, because that's the only way you can get that trophy, is to just play the game again, which is great. I'm super excited about it, and I'm actually having a really good time playing that. But it's not a Spider-Man 2 Spoilercast. It's Astro Bot. But I just had a really good time. I'm actually still playing the game every day. I log in once a day to just do a run through a level and check in on my little buddies and buddy bots. I was tweeting that I would love if they did like an Animal Crossing like expansion for Astro Bot, and you have to like maintain the little robots.
That'd be cool
to go in and just like fix up Yorda of Eco or whatever. It's just a magical game. It for me, it reminded me, and I think many other people said this, but it reminded me why I play video games. Not for trophies, which is ironic because this game got me into trophy hunting. But just for the sheer play of it, for me, the best moment in the game is those levels where it ends and it just showers you with jewels and gold coins or fucking acorns, and you just feel it all over your controller. And there's no other point to having all those fucking things on the screen or on the platform other than to have it on the screen. And it reminds me of the ancient promise of Mario 128. For those who don't know, the GameCube was shown off with 128 Marios bouncing around on screen, and everyone and Nintendo was like, "Look at this fucking technology! It's amazing!" And then they never gave us that technology, much like they do with their fucking Zelda demos, where they look at how amazing Link and Ganon look like sword fighting. Ugh. You will never release this. You will never see this ever again.
That is amazing. That's people. It's like, look at this cure for Alzheimer's. Isn't this great? And they just lock it away.
Yeah, it's like the Chappelle Show skit as I show you, like, hey, we got aliens and we got a cure for AIDS here, but you won't see it. But yeah, but I mean, I think that's the uniqueness of Astro Bot. Much has been said, as a co-host of the Nintendo podcast, much has been said about how much this game is like Mario, and it's true. But I do think Astro Bot does lend something unique, and it does have something to do with the technology and the quote unquote power of the PS5, which is different. We don't see people don't make games like this with this kind of tech and this kind of fidelity. And it made me sad that more people aren't making games like this with this level of tech and physics available.
They tried with Knack twice.
They did.
No one really cared.
They did. I never played Knack, so I'm thinking maybe
you
I
played
should
Knack.
now.
Holy shit! You should try Knack.
I should try Knack.
I didn't like it.
Yeah, I didn't like it either. I always say Knack was the game that tricked me the most in preview, because when I played it in preview builds, it was good. But then when you put it all together, I was like, no one really liked it,
Yeah.
So, and that wasn't, Shadowfall was really and Resogun were like the big launch games that people actually cared about, to be fair. All right, so we have Gene on the record at a high level. We'll get back to obviously all of those things, but let's go to Brad next and get your take from a 30,000 foot view.
Oh, yeah, Astrobot's excellent. I think it's a really great game. I've been very impressed. Since Astrobot won the VR game, I reviewed it when it came out, and I was like, this is fucking great. So it's been awesome to see Astrobot kind of evolve and really finding his space in the genre, I would say. And I think it's really smart to make it a celebration of PlayStation history, because they frankly need a franchise like that. Nintendo's been doing it for so long. It's so successful with them, like Smash and everything like that. But the great thing about Astrobot is I think it's deep enough and compelling enough on its own where it doesn't have to rely on that stuff if it doesn't want to in the future, especially. And yeah, I was just super impressed with the game. I think it uses, like Gene says, the technology really well, particularly the DualSense. Like, they're one of the best at getting the haptics out of all the first party studios. I'd say they're one of the best at it. Really breezy to get through. There's some nice difficulty if you want a little challenge. It's a great game for anyone. This is the kind of game you could recommend to anyone, I would say. If someone gets a PS5 right away, it's like, yeah, you should get Astrobot. Anyone can have a good time with it. I think it's smart that it was $10 cheaper too. That's really great to see. And I'm very happy to see actually a Japanese studio from Sony besides Polyphony excelling and getting the word out there, because they are a Japanese company. So it always makes me happy when they have a Japanese game do really well. And particularly the circumstances this game was made under. How many people are there, Colin? Like 60 or something
60,
like that?
Yeah, 60 people. They're going to scale to 100 apparently now. But
yeah. So, I mean, yeah, they made this game in 3 years. I think it's great. This game doesn't overstay its welcome either. No. I think the stages and the pacing are really well done. You get just enough out of them where you feel satisfied, but it doesn't linger on too much. And it's just wildly creative and delightful. I smiled a lot during this game. A lot of brilliant mechanics in it. It's an awesome game. I also highly recommend it.
Chris, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, man, I loved it. I thoroughly loved it. I mean, these were the games that I really cut my teeth on, like, early on, and these were the games that really made me realize at a young age that I really liked this thing. Like, whatever video games were, like, this is what I dig. Ape Escape, Crash, Spyro, even just like weird shit. Like, even just, like, I remember this Bugs Bunny Lost in Time game that I played that I really liked. That's probably
that game. I remember playing that game. That game was fun back in the day. It probably sucked.
Yeah, I have no idea how that game holds up, but like, I love 3D platformers, and it's been just such a long time since I've played one that felt, first of all, modern in the way that Gene kind of mentioned. Like, it's so rare that we get a game with this much joy and just levity and gleefulness without the compromise of it being on like a gimped, piece of hardware like the Switch. You know what I mean? It's like it's nice to get something of this design caliber, of this style on hardware that treats it like it deserves to be treated, which is like, high fidelity, like emphasis on physics, just gorgeous. It's a really pretty game. I don't know, man. Like, there's so much to say about this game. I feel like this really is this game of the year. I don't know. I feel like it is definitely like the most fun that I have had with a video game this year. Easily, no question. I think it might be the most fun I've had with a PlayStation exclusive in probably a few generations, to be honest.
Wow.
The games are not supposed to be fun; they're experiences. I'm only kidding.
Yeah, we don't use that word fun.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
No, dude, for real, man. Like
Neil, who gets raked over the coals for that quote, but yeah.
Yeah. I value those games too, but like this reminded me of like something that like I forgot about. You know what I mean? And I've always held these games in high regard in my own mind. Like I talk about them pretty often. Spyro, Crash, Ape Escape. These are my favorite games probably ever. Ape Escape in particular, I loved as a kid. I was so fascinated by this like DualShock focused design philosophy and just like the sound design, like almost the schizophrenic soundtrack and like the weird. It was so weird and out there, and like I'd never played anything like it. And that experience really stuck around with me, and so playing this game was a joy for me. But yeah, man, it's just I wish there were more games like this. 60 people, 3 years, totally respectful of your time. This is the kind of game that like I would like. Why wouldn't you platinum it? You know, everything that is here is so tight and so good. I feel like I was smiling the entire way through. I was like laughing to myself at certain points. Just that, not even at it's nothing to do about writing, nothing to do about like it wasn't like a clever quip or anything. It was just like laughing from the joy of moving through this world and like seeing all the different ways that things interacted with each other. And it felt like if you had a thought about like, oh well, will this ability do this? Oh, it does. That's so cool. And there were so many moments like that, like densely packed, almost like this is a really weird comparison to make, but like almost in the way that like Elden Ring felt like dense in its exploration. Like the limited scope of these levels feel dense in like gameplay possibility. So it feels like there's a lot to do with very little. Even just something like I remember like there was a power up in this game that like let you shrink and grow, and just the amount of detail that goes into even just designing a level like that. And like, oh, if I shrink and go under the log and grow, will I shatter the log? Yes, I will. Oh, that's so sick. Oh, there's platforms on the leaves. You can jump on every single individual flower. It's so creative and so lovingly crafted. And yeah, man, this it really reminded me why I loved games as a kid. And it kind of proved something that I was always worried about in retrospect, like thinking about like, oh, well, if a game like this were to come out today, would I really enjoy it, or would I, or am I just kind of clinging on to this memory of like, you know, being a kid and, how, everything was like simpler. There was a lot less stress. Things were a lot more fun, a lot more like less complicated. Would I really enjoy a new game in that style now as an adult, or is it just like, wishful thinking that such a thing would be true? And yeah, it turns out the answer is absolutely. Like there's a lot of references to old games in this game, some of which made me so happy I can't even tell you. Others I just didn't get. Like there's most of these characters I've never seen. Like there's a lot of obscure characters in this game, or like obscure bots and obscure references to stuff that I just am not super familiar with. And not being familiar with them didn't hinder my enjoyment of the game at all. And yeah, I think that's kind of speaks volumes. I think this game, as it is just so well designed that every reference or every cheeky kind of, callback is really just an additive kind of seasoning to something that's already fantastic. And I can't imagine. Yeah, I recommend this game highly. Like this is easily the game to own, I think, for anybody with a PS5. It's just so light, short, sweet, worth it, dense, joyful. It's just great.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, I'm fascinated by this game in a lot of different ways. I'm fascinated by the team that made it. I'm fascinated by how quickly they made it and how small the team is, and how we knew that Asobi was, Astro Bot's like in Asobi's logo. Like we know that that's what they're going to be doing, but I didn't know no one really knew the nature of the game. It's kind of interesting when you keep things small, do things quickly, and keep things relatively secret, that people can really be surprised about it. And I looked at the calendar. There was only 13 weeks between when this game was revealed and when it was released. That's something I really love, and I would love to see them do more of that. Believe they revealed it at the end of May, and then boom, beginning of September, here it is. No need to tease it too much. No need to like get overwrought with previews and all of the rest. No need to have people invite people for 5 different beats and PlayStation blog posts and all of that. I'm pretty sure. I don't want to speak too confidently, but I feel like Astro Bot's going to sell a few million copies. And at $60 for a team of, first of all, they're a team of 60 in Japan. It's going to be cheaper to run your company there. You're looking at a burn rate of a few $1,000,000 a year maximum for that team, with their building and all the rest. And so they've already made their money back. And I like, it's, as was said, like a kind of a celebration of Japan studios specifically. I think they actually got a little bit over crazy with that, and I want to talk a little bit about that too. But this is the last remaining remnant of a Japan studio, and I think a lot of people don't know or think about how Japan studio was really run. I think people are confused by it. Japan studio was a production house with a bunch of internal teams, and Asobi is one of those teams. Asobi was a team under Japan studio, and then when Japan studio went away, Asobi basically remained, and everyone else went away. But it's not necessarily unusual. Like Project Siren was one of those teams. Team Eco was one of those, and so on and so forth. And then they had a bunch of what is called XDev production going on there that deal with a lot of Japanese studios and companies. And that's where Clap Hands and Everybody's Golf comes from. And, things like Loco Roco and Gravity Rush and Siren, they, as we said earlier, all kind of come from internal teams or these external second party relationships. It shows the breadth of what Sony can do with games. And the reality is that this isn't the kind of game people want from them necessarily, but sometimes you need to show people something. It's very Apple-like in some sense. Like, you don't think you need this or want this or even think about it at all, but here it is. And I think that that's really intriguing to people if it's of a high quality. So we come into PlayStation, I think, although people make fun of the sad dad simulators and all that, I totally get it, but really that's PlayStation's essence. And it has been since the middle of the PS3 era. And this game kind of just shatters that and says, well, we don't have to be just that, And yeah, we talked about Knack and like Gravity Rush and all the things that came out of there earlier at different pieces of Japan studio. And they are different too, but this is childlike. And one thing I really like about it the most is great artist steel. And this is a Nintendo game. And I think that it's desperately needed. When I was playing it, I was like, the mechanics of this game are Super Mario Sunshine. You have the flood, and all of the rest. I'm like, this is, and then a little bit of Galaxy, obviously a little bit of Mario 64, a little easy, I would say. I'm surprised that people are struggling with this game so much. There's one stage in the game that's really hard, and it's the last one, the Chop Chop Master Onion stage. And I would say that there's even just one part of that. Like, it took me an hour or so to get through that because I kept dying at this one part. But once I figured it out, it's the part where you have to go vertical, and there's like the purple enemies that are on the vertical.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And you have to figure out a way to like,
those.
I hate them. Coax them to shoot, and then you have to jump up and kill them or whatever. And I figured that out. So that was a little hard, but I was actually surprised by how generally easy it is. But I don't think it's an insult to the game. I died quite a bit, but I was really flippant. Like the checkpoints are like, I would just jump into like holes and caverns and just see what was going on because the checkpoints were so often, they were so generous with the checkpoints. I thought there was a little bit of imbalance in game design and not giving you any hit points, and then suddenly you have a boss fight and it's like, oh no, now we'll give you 3 hit points. I would have liked a more Mario style approach to that, of being able to have 1 hit point with you at all times, maybe with, like a big Mario, little Mario, not that in Astro Bot, but something else. And then maybe got rid of half the checkpoints in the game. And I think that would have made it a little more reasonably difficult. When you think about games, Mario 64 is not that hard, but Sunshine, the last 10 shines and stars in Sunshine are fucking hard as fuck. And there's nothing like that in this game. And the same thing with Galaxy. Galaxy gets really tough.
Sunshine is insane. Yes.
Like
for a lot of bad reasons.
The camera's a little wonky and all that. But like, you get brought to those like spatial areas with those one-off puzzles, which this game does unabashedly, and that's what it reminded me of. Is again Mario. But nothing was that hard. But I'm like, you don't need to be like that. I don't think it needs to be grueling to do everything. There's something fun about a game where you can approach it and be like, yeah, this isn't going to beat my face in. And we can have that too, but we're not going to do that here. The one thing that I want to say, well, there's a few last things that I have a few minor criticisms. Unless I totally missed it, this game is begging for like a museum component. and doesn't seem to have it. In fact, and I could be wrong because I miss things all the time, but you can't even really, if you don't know who a character is, there's no way for you to really know. You know, you can go and look it up, and that's what I did because I was approaching characters. I've heard of every character in the game. I looked at the bots except for 3 of them, I think, but I didn't recognize many more that I should have known. I'm like, who is this? I think that's like Samanosuke from Onimusha, but I'm not really sure. I would have really loved a way to get into some deep museum content. You know, I think that's a missing element of this game that would have really made it pop. And then I think really given it a Game of the Year kind of quality to it. You know, I'm thinking of specifically the Capcom and Konami collections that are being released lately from Mega Man, Castlevania, and all the rest. These are amazing collections, not only from the games, but from all the shit they show you. It's like, here are the original drawings of the castle. Here are all the the bosses drawn by Inafune. Here's what the things we didn't use. Here's like missing sprites that are in the game that we never activated. And I love that kind of shit. So it would have been really cool to say like, okay, here's the Knack bot. Go and press a button. Here's a whole history on Knack, you know, who Knack is, when the game came out, all that. I just feel like that's the missing 5% of the game that I really, really think would have been a true celebration of PlayStation. It comes off a little bit more like Smash Brothers, especially with the assist trophies and all that kind of stuff, where it's like, here it is. You learn a little bit, but it's not much. This is even more vague. And I just think that it would have been a great way to... A lot of it's a wink and a nod, which I think is cool. It's like, do you know who Rudy from Wild Arms is? Too bad. I guess you don't. And there's something cool about that. But at the same time, I would have loved for people to learn about him.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that's the... And I looked around. I'm like, there's got to be something here that does that, right? Like, who are these bots? And I'm like, no, the game just doesn't say. And yeah, that bothered me a little bit. It's not like it doesn't ruin the game at all, but I think people out there will understand what I'm saying. That's the last 5 to 10% that would have really made this an amazing game. You know, like a real museum celebration of Astro. The other thing that bothered me a little bit, and I will say, is that they get overboard by using, like, there's 150 VIP bots. 9 of them are from Ape Escape. 6 of them are pilots from Wipeout. Like, it's like, all right, guys, like 3 of them are Loco Roco, I think. You know, it's like, okay, maybe we could have done a little more work here, but that's just a minor complaint as well. Overall, I think the game is a joy to play, brings me back to my childhood and my teen years, specifically my teen years when 3D platforming really became big. And I don't play games like this very much. The one thing I will say, I don't seek or want to play games like this very much either. So this is perfect as a little sprinkling. And hopefully we'll get another one in a few years or whatever at the end of the generation. And that's all I really need. Nice little piece of spice in the PlayStation stew. So really well done. I'm sorry, I was interrupting. Someone was trying to cut in here.
No, I was just gonna say, I think you're right. They need a museum kind of thing, at least like the Smash Trophy thing, where you can see the game they're from and it tells you a little bit about them. Especially because a lot of these games you can at least play on PSN or some of them. Like you can play Wild Arms and stuff like that. So it could be a great way to get people into your history of PlayStation.
Certainly, yeah. You don't have to be an asshole and be like, click this link to get to the PlayStation.
Yeah,
store.
You don't got to do that.
You know, but just saying, like Wild Arms, 1997.
I was a little disappointed in the Astro's Playroom countdown of Astro Bot, because they added a little basement in Astro's Playroom, and then they had a countdown for the midnight launch of Astro Bot. So I was hanging out there, but all the door does is lead you to the PlayStation Store, and it's like,
joy.
Do you want to go to the PlayStation Store and buy the Astro Bot? I was like, I already fucking own the game. Like, what the fuck is going on?
Commerce.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel.
They did try to do something with that, but they didn't do anything with any other game.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the museum aspect, because on some level, like, I think that would be cool, but on the other hand, I do kind of I think the vagueness of some of the, like, even just like some of the names that they choose, it's like it's almost like, do you remember those weird collectibles in God of War Ragnarok that were like references to other games, and it would be like MLB The Show would be like sporting event, the event, or whatever the hell, and it would be just like some weird kind of offbeat, synonym kind of thing. I think that works a lot for a game like this, because I do feel like this is a game that's like, if this game had a codex, I feel like it would just be like the most jarring thing for the tone of what this game is. Like, it is so, it's like, you're not really reading anything in Mario games. You know what I mean? Like, you're not really reading anything in 3D platformers. It's really about like the moving through it. And so like, I think that would be cool. And even especially for like Astro's Playroom specifically, I feel like it's weird that it's not in something like that was already like such a celebration of PlayStation history and like bundled in with the console. It feels like it's more at home in that than it is in 3D platformer. And one thing I will say is like, I think the vagueness on some level is, well, obviously it's intentional, but I think it works to the degree that we wish the museum hypothetically would, because I don't necessarily care who these robots are, but I didn't know, and I just felt myself getting curious and looking into it myself. And I feel like that's maybe the feeling that they want to inspire outside of the game, getting people to actually look into this in a deeper way than just like reading a little blurb like in game where they feel like maybe their adventure begins and ends at the game. You know what I mean? I feel like this inspires people to maybe look into things a little bit more and be like, oh, what is that? And then they look at, oh, what's Wild Arms? And then they look at Wild Arms and they see the cover. It's like, oh, what the fuck is this? And then maybe they get curious about it enough to check it out and maybe play it. I know I've seen that a lot on Twitter specifically. A lot of people are tagging me and stuff where they're like, this game's got me. I've seen a lot of people like playing Wild Arms and like Sly and like other. I mean, I started playing Sly just because of this, or not just because of it, but it was the extra push that I needed, and I think it's hitting a lot of people in that way.
Yeah, but I think you could at least put the box art in the game, in the name of the game. At least
that would be cool, yeah.
Because it reminds me of like Destiny. It's like I gotta go outside the game to kind of learn more about this kind of shit. Kind of annoying. Like, I guess if you want to dig deeper into it, I think that's fine. You can totally do that. But just a little bit. Like, who the fuck's going to know what the kid named from Boku no Natsuyomi is in this game when it was a Japanese-only game? And
that was one of the few where I'm like, what is this game? I didn't even know anything about it, you know?
Because we never got it.
Fans of the YouTuber critic Tim Rogers would know the game inside out.
Yeah, dude, that guy
interesting. I read about it.
Yeah,
people that don't know, it's a Japanese only.
He has an 8-hour essay on that game.
Yeah, Jesus.
So. It's a Japanese only PS1 game that Sony published. For people that don't know, and then it was released on PSP in Japan, but it was never ported here. Apparently, it's like some sort of like day in the life kind of game, isn't it?
Yeah,
like,
it is,
which is interesting for the time, especially. Some of the what did you guys think that they did go overboard with too many bots from the same games? I understand if you have a core worlds like God of War or something, but some of them were just, I guess, but it's just like, do we need 5 Loco Rocos?
Loco Roco was a core world though.
Yeah, it was. That's true. Do we need 3 Helghast? None of them are individual characters. None of them is like Sev or Colonel Raddick or whatever. It's like, it's just 3 Helghast soldiers. It's like, why are you doing this? It just seemed like such a waste because there is a shit ton of stuff they didn't put in. That they could have. Not a lot of it obvious, though. I will say that. Not a lot of it obvious, but you have to go. And they don't probably want to blow their load, you know? Because if they want to do a sequel, they're going to need a shit ton more, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think Colin is a slightly annoying seeing like 5 Wipeout racers or whatever. Just because there's like no Square Enix at all in this game.
So I have some news about that because I actually interviewed Team Asobi about this. So I asked why wasn't Square in Astro Bot, because Final Fantasy is obviously a huge part of PlayStation. All Nicholas could say was that we have to respect the company's wishes.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they don't want Square doesn't want.
Like, I don't know why Square wouldn't want to be in it.
It sounds like Square did not want to be involved in this project.
That's so fucking weird.
That's so stupid.
You know,
especially when they were in Playroom with the Buster Sword, at least.
Yeah, I think Playroom played around with the IP where they were safe to do certain things, but they didn't really need permission. The Buster Sword, I think, isn't really copyrighted, so I think you can just use that. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's so stupid, dude. I'm hoping they're just messing around and there's going to be DLC or something. That's what I'm hoping for, but why the fuck would you not want your characters in this game? Square, who does like some really dumb shit with their characters.
I'm more confused.
Dombe.
I'm more confused by the lack of like certain first party like I could be wrong. It's been I think a week or in a couple days since I platinumed it. So like maybe they were in the game and I didn't notice, but like no resistance at all
Yeah,
as far as I
Resistance isn't
remember.
in there. No, they're not.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like-
you're right. That's funny.
there were
which is
three
annoying.
There were 3 games that I thought were overtly missing. Resistance was one of them. Siphon Filter was another.
Yeah.
And Heavy Rain, I thought was weird because they did Beyond Two Souls and Detroit, but not Heavy Rain. And I thought that the dad from Heavy Rain would have been fucking hysterical. You know, Ethan Mars.
God,
you know,
that would
like
be great.
they put the chick from Beyond Two Souls in there. I'm like, Beyond is like the least like. I liked the robot from Detroit being in there. I thought that was really cool, but I'm like, why not Ethan Mars and him like saying Jason or something? It would be so funny, you know.
The whole Jason.
Those were the 3 I identified that were big. You know,
there was, I think there was
right next to the big X button, so at least you know what's that referencing. But yeah,
there was a Jason reference, I guess, in the playroom. So maybe they just decided not to do it again or something.
Yeah, could be. So yeah, also an exclusion, an inclusion that I thought was really weird. Did any of the inclusions bother you? Like they felt out of place, or there are a couple for me where I'm like, no, this doesn't belong here. None of that came in for you guys.
I don't recall.
Let me look up these plots because I'm forgetting.
Here, I'll give you guys a list. I have a good list here.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, I'll put it in the chat.
Off the top of my head, I do think that the Street Fighter guys aren't exactly PlayStation guys. You know, even though I'm not mad about their inclusion at all.
Yeah, they didn't bother me too much. I think the one that bothered me the most was Arthur from Ghosts and Goblins. Just because I was like, why is he like?
Well,
Arthur from
Konami's
Ghosts and Goblins has nothing to. What'd you say?
Capcom and Konami. Oh, Capcom in particular, it's just like you can use whatever. Probably.
Yeah, but it's just like, why is this game has nothing to do with PlayStation at all? It's an arcade game, and it has really much more to do with Nintendo.
Because people know it. That's why they.
And then
put it in.
The other one that bothered me was Ulala from Space Channel 5. This is another one where I'm like, this hasn't. These games were ported later, but I'm like, this game has nothing to do with. In fact,
true,
I think it actually is kind of missing the history of the entire situation. That like Space Channel 5 was a sort of like last bastion Sega Independence move. It just seems when I saw it, I was like, really? That's also weird.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah, that's fair.
But nothing too crazy. I mean, those are small complaints, but I was like, nah. Yeah, we didn't really need you.
I think there's. I think part of this. I mean, this is obviously like mostly like 99% a celebration of PlayStation, but I also think there's just there's a degree of just reverence for the joy and the art of video games here. I think that's why Street Fighter is there. Like Street Fighter's never necessarily been like particularly PlayStation centric. It's been
Street Fighter
mostly
5
that's true. Yeah, but I don't know. Seeing Ghosts and Goblins, I remember thinking that was weird, but I'll put it this way: nothing that I came across in this game felt as weird as seeing Big Daddy in PlayStation All Stars Battle.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
okay, well yeah,
like that to me was just like. This was a 360 exclusive for.
It was a 360 exclusive, guys.
Yeah, it was also gleamed out of BioShock 2, which is even more annoying, you know. And then they got Isaac Clarke in the game, which was also weird, you know.
Yeah.
I agree with you there.
I don't know, but yeah, the Ghosts and Goblins thing. I remember seeing that and being like, "Is that PlayStation?"
Yeah, because Maximo would be the more Maximo is the more salient PlayStation mascot because he was a game. Maximo is the Western-made Capcom Ghosts and Goblins. He had a full long. He tried to mimic Fabio or whatever. Yeah, but he was a PlayStation 2 game. So also, it would have been fun to see Maximo, and that would have been a huge reference for a lot of old school Maximo heads.
I will say that it was nice seeing characters in there that I didn't think would be in there, despite how important they were. Like characters that should have been in All-Star, PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, but just inexplicably weren't in the place of like Big Daddy. So like coming across like Crash and Spyro here was like really, it's like, oh, good, you belong here. You should be. It would feel so empty without. Also, it's a little bit weird that they are just straight up themselves.
Yeah. I wonder if that was part of the agreement. You know,
maybe. I know that they're wearing a costume or whatever, and you go up to them and you hit them, and like the mask comes off or whatever. But like, you're pushing it with Spyro at the very least. Like Spyro is straight up a dragon.
Maybe they tried making a bot and it just looked hideous, and they're just like, nah, fuck it.
Yeah, just make Crash. Yeah,
I love
funny though.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
No, it's just funny though because he stands out so clearly.
Oh yeah, Amaterasu's like that from Okami as well.
Yeah,
just a wolf.
Oh yeah,
a robot wolf.
Yeah, it's cool. Also, shout out to like the Pikmin element to this that I didn't expect. It's not exactly Pikmin, but like the whole like I really appreciated the fact that like building, like getting stars and like getting any of your agreed upon MacGuffins in a lot of these platformers often feels kind of like arbitrary. Like, why are they shines? Why are they stars? And there's usually like an explanation, but it's not really an explanation for why they need to be what they are. It's just kind of like, this is just what we settled on. The fact that they are robots that are tangible in the world, and there's like a Pikmin kind of philosophy of it where it's like, okay, well, if you get this many, you can perform this action, and they actually play like a physical role in getting you from point A to point B to different, like, I thought that was like a really clever way to like use that mechanic to make it feel like more than just collecting an arbitrary like ephemeral kind of point system to unlock things. Like, it was really rewarding to see them like pile up and build a bridge, you know what I mean, or raise platforms for you. It's like really strangely gratifying.
It was really cool at the Grandmaster level when they all form a ladder to the stars, and then as you're climbing, you just see all the you're just climbing over the faces of all the PlayStation.
Yeah, dude, that shit's like Nintendo magic right there. Yeah. It was like you climb up to the moon. You're like, this is so whimsical. It hurts. it's so sweet.
What did you guys think of the last stage of having Chop Chop Master Onion as kind of the I thought that was really cute.
I did not expect them to be the last one. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I was wondering who it was going to be. I'm like, who is it going to be? And I was like, is it going to be like some weird shit like Kaz or something, or like, I was like, who? But it was. I was like, yeah, okay, cool.
Sean Layden,
yeah. Being like, I told you, motherfuckers.
Give it up for Vib Ribbon, everybody. Give it up.
Yeah, Vib Ribbon. It's Vib Ribbon again.
It's. I would have loved it to be Kevin Butler.
That would
be like
sick.
Photorealistic, just a Unreal Engine 5 render of Kevin Butler.
Should have been a PS5 Pro bot or something at the very end. Really sell it.
What are some of the other bots that you guys like that were included that you thought were cute? I mean, I really loved seeing Mr. Mosquito in there. I thought was cool. The flower from Flower I thought was really funny. I liked seeing the imp from Dreams in there.
Oh yeah.
They gave a hat tip to Motor Tune Grand Prix, which was Polyphony's original series before Gran Turismo. So I thought that was kind of cool. Certainly a lot of Japanese role-playing stuff. Like it was cool to see Alundra in there, Ark the Lad. It's like
Ark
weird. It's like very weird. I was like, wow, Suikoden is in there, which is obviously
first party for me. Yeah.
I think seeing Buzz was cool. And
Buzz, yeah,
what's
definitely.
His name? Yeah. It is Buzz, right?
That's it is. Yeah, he's the host of Buzz is the host of Buzz.
Yeah.
And then you find and when you go to the gacha store, you find the little buzzer that the game came with, which is cool.
For me, the highlight, I mean, aside from like Crash and Spyro and Abe from Oddworld and those characters, I think the big one for me was oh my god, Legacy of Kain, Raziel.
Kain and Raziel,
yeah, that was like really gratifying, especially just knowing that like that's presumably on the horizon in some way, based on that leak that came out of that show. So yeah, just smiling this entire time when I was playing.
Yeah, some level 5 love. They had Rogue Galaxy in there. They had Dark Cloud in there. Dark Cloud 2 specifically.
Yeah, Dark Cloud 2, yeah. That was sick.
Persona 4 was in there. So it was cool to see, externally, Metal Gear, you're working with Konami, you're working with Capcom, you're working with Sega, you're working with Embracer Group because they got, it's funny, if Square Enix still owned Tomb Raider and all that stuff, we would have never gotten that. We would have never gotten Raziel in the game either.
Oh my god, we wouldn't have gotten fucking Lara Croft in here, which is insane.
Right, exactly.
Lara Croft in here.
I thought the one of the funnier ones was like the what is it, the intelligence cube?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that one was weird.
Where they were just like, we don't know how to do this. Here's just the game, like on a robot's head.
A bot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good shit.
Polygon Man, I was pretty stoked to find him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the as I mentioned on Twitter, the day one US mascot for PlayStation.
Yeah.
Right.
Forgotten
everyone, including Ken Kutaragi, hated. Ken Kutaragi
everyone hated.
Was like, what the fuck is this shit? Because fucking stupid.
I loved that was the last boss in PlayStation All Stars, and actually in this list I sent you from Game Rant, they have him listed as PlayStation All Stars. I'm like, no, you noobs,
yeah.
you noobs.
That's his only video game appearance.
Yeah,
actually.
it is. It is. So it is true, literally true as well. And the other thing they in this list that bothered me of the list I sent you is they have the Defender starship from Defender, and I'm like, I don't think so, guy. I think that's Resogun. Which is,
I thought it was Resogun.
Well, it is, but they have it listed here as like it's from Defender, which is the game that inspired Resogun, but it's not.
Yeah, it's not Resogun.
Because even the little people you rescue are in the game too, like the little people, which is cool. So and Tokyo Jungle is represented in there, which is pretty cool. I absolutely love that game. I think that it's one of the most underrated PlayStation published games ever, and really, so the Pomeranian's in there, which is cute, and Jumping Flash is in there, which we knew.
Yeah,
and a few
Jumping
other
Flash was huge for me because I was a huge fan of. I was a day one PlayStation 1 player, so I had Jumping Flash and Battle Arena Edition, and Jumping Flash was amazing. It was like the first 3D platformer before Mario.
Yeah, and what did you say?
Couto from Puppeteer was in there. I was very happy about that, and of course, Richter and Alucard in there. It was nice to see.
Yeah,
and 20 Ape Escape characters.
Yeah. To be fair, those are good Ape Escape characters. On the list,
it is a lot of Ape Escape characters when you see it all laid out on the
damn
on
right.
Like that.
Damn right.
I'm not really mad about that. I'm pretty happy to see all those apes there.
I think
I was really happy about the Ape Escape and Loco Roco inclusion. I was really surprised about Loco Roco because I did love that game. I did not play Patapon at all, but I did love Loco Roco. That level was a sheer delight. My favorite level in the game.
The thing that justifies the Ape Escape thing for me is just like seeing. I love how in the hub world, it feels like every IP gets their own, like, on some, obviously some people get more than others, but like the big ones get their own thing, and I love the Ape Escape one where it's just like all the monkey, like it justifies itself by just that the way it manifests in the game world where they're just all fucking around with each other.
Yeah, the hub world will have the 5 core worlds represented because the core worlds, the core gameplay worlds were Ape Escape, God of War, Uncharted, Loco Roco, and finally Horizon. I was like, oh my god, Horizon is going to be the last fucking level. Holy shit. The heavy hand of Herman Hulst.
Yeah, Herman Hulst came in.
Herman Hulst came in and was like, no, you better make Aloy the main character. She better be I was worried that Aloy was going to be the last character that you unlock. And I was glad that she was the final level. And I was like, oh, okay, it's Grandmaster Chop Chop Onion. Okay, that works, I guess.
Yeah, it's Herman was like, you got to put 3 Hellgast in the game, and Horizon's got to be at the end. Go ahead, Chris. I interrupted you.
No, those. Well, I did want to talk about those specific levels based on these IP, because these, I think, were the kind of the surprises, really. Like, I think we kind of had an assumption of what would be in the game, or like what the game would consist of. It's like, okay, you're saving robots based off of PlayStation characters, so like even if something was surprising, it was on some level expected. But these handcrafted, like, specific levels modeled off of these games were so fucking fun and so cool and so weird that the only real weakness of the game is that I wish there was more of these. Like, because I feel like they could have done, so they could have, I feel like Gravity Rush would have made like a really good one. And just other things like that. It's like there's so many good ones, and I think what we got was really great, but I'm like, damn, dude, you're cooking with these are all so good. And I was over the moon that the first one was Ape Escape, and that they used the same sound effects and everything, and the soundtrack. It's like, this is.
Yeah. Did you expect that you were going to use the right analog stick for the net?
It was a little disappointing not to see that, but I get why. Like, I get why they would do that. Because that was what enamored me about Ape Escape in the first place, was that omnidirectional kind of style that we've not seen since, really.
Ever, yeah.
But it was that whole level. I thought something that was really cute. It was cute enough for me to make a note of it. I don't normally take notes when I play games. Maybe like sometimes I do, but like definitely for a game like this, I wasn't anticipating. In the God of War mission, there's a point, or in the God of War level, there's a point where you go through like a narrow hallway and you do like the shimmy.
I fucking screamed.
And I thought that I grinned like a psycho when I saw that. I was like, that is hilarious that they're doing this. But yeah, those were all like really fun, really well designed levels. Like every single one of them.
I like that the Uncharted level had its own like set piece. It was an escape. It was like a cinematic set piece at the end, and it was like an escape from the temple. That was really fun. And then you had to solve puzzles too. You had to figure out temple puzzles,
the eggs,
match symbols and everything like that. I was like, oh, this is just like fucking Uncharted right here. Except it's a lot easier because I'm like Colin. I fucking hate the puzzles in Uncharted. So
yeah, if I look at the puzzle and I'm like, I don't know what to do, I'm like, I'm not gonna figure this out. I'm just gonna go.
Wait, you guys don't like the puzzles in Uncharted?
If they're too hard, I always bring up Uncharted 3 and that huge statue that's like 10 feet tall and you have to climb them and move. I'm like, I'm not doing this. Like, there's just no way I'm doing this.
There's one statue in Uncharted 3, that exact same fucking statue, and then there's one like tower level, a bell tower in Uncharted 4 that's so fucking annoying and goes on for like 3 levels, and it's like, oh my
god, that's funny.
Yeah, what did we think about the selections? Again, to kind of bring a critical eye towards it because we're so into it, which is great. I mean, the game is awesome. Ape Escape, God of War, Uncharted, Loco Roco, and Horizon were like the 5 kind of theme stages. I feel like it's so dissonant that they should have just chosen one path or the other. And what I mean by that is say, like, we're going to either do AAA games, God of War, Uncharted, and so on and so forth, and Horizon, or we're going to let's celebrate Japan Studio, Ape Escape, Loco Roco. You could have gotten into Patapon, Tokyo Jungle, that kind of stuff. I feel like you can't really win either way. So they chose in the middle because it's like, well, part of me is like, what if these were all kind of obscure? And people would have been like, oh, that's disappointing. I want my Uncharted level. But then if you did it the other direction and you're like, and it's God of War, Uncharted, and whatever, and The Last of Us and all that kind of stuff, they would be like, it would have been nice to celebrate something else,
Stealth level. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so I like the move. I just, I want to know how they chose these games, and I especially want to know with Loco Roco because Loco Roco is a legendary Japan Studio game, but it's like, that's an interesting choice. I mean, that's 1/5 of your choosing, and you're choosing Loco Roco. And I guarantee you, most people that play Astro Bot have never played that game. So it's going to be
nobody's fucking talking about Loco Roco on the timeline. It's
right?
So disappointing.
Right?
Did it just come out again or something?
They ported it a while ago to PS4. I want to say.
Okay,
it came out on PS4. So that's the thing about the bots that they chose. That a lot of these games are still available on the PSN. You can buy Parappa the Rapper and Patapon and Loco Roco, and all these games right now.
True.
Is there something that didn't come up that would have been interesting? Killzone would have been an interesting one to do, but I guess maybe that would have been redundant with Uncharted because kind of the shooting mechanics and all of that.
Yeah, I think that's why they didn't do it.
That's my biggest criticism of this game, and I want to be clear that this is very much a nitpick. I still love this game, and I think all the levels that they did were really great, and I had fun with them. But the fact that, and you bring up a great point that it does feel dissonant because 3 of the 5 games are third-person over-the-shoulder shooting games. I mean, God of War isn't a third-person shooting game, but God of War is a third-person over-the-shoulder action game. So all 3 levels still had to follow some kind of template of an over-the-shoulder third-person action game. God of War was probably the nicest one because that includes melee combat, but then Uncharted and Aloy were both about shooting, and Aloy distinguished herself by having the cool slow motion effect and that boppin' Horizon remix. I fucking love that song, and she looks amazing too with her little ponytail. But I think that's probably the biggest criticism because then the gameplay of Ape Escape and Loco Roco are so fucking vastly different. And there's such like huge bursts of flavor of something else besides what the game offered. So I mean, that's probably the closest thing to a criticism I have, and I would probably solve it by just making this game longer. I think everyone says that this game, doesn't wear out its welcome, but I would have preferred it if this game had like 8 galaxies as opposed to 5.
Yeah, that would have been nice. Maybe we'll get that in DLC. We're in this kind of bind. I always talk about this with Yacht Club and Shovel Knight, where it's like they kept supporting Shovel Knight with expansions. It's like, just make a fucking new one. And I hope that eventually they just kind of, I know they're going to want to support this a little bit, get a little bit more money out of people, but it's like, just go make the next one, and make it 8 stages instead of, 8 worlds instead of 5, like Gene's saying, and figure out some of these relationships. Because I feel like this is so good, and I'm glad you brought this up about nitpicking, because I have no major complaint about the game. It is all nitpicking. I'm just trying to be critical because I'm a critic, and find things that we can talk about. But the reality is the game is quite immaculate, as is. So don't get it confused.
Yeah. I make fun of the Horizon level, but I fucking love the Horizon level. Actually, I think it's so cool. So, and
I was thrilled to see Horizon. I mean, I personally love Horizon, so I see it in there. I think I just want to know. Did they go like, we're going to choose 3? So did Sony go like, we're going to choose 3, you choose 2? Or did they choose them all? Or did Sony choose them all? Because I guess the reason I asked that is like, because I feel like that tells you a little something on how they feel about some of these franchises. I feel like we're, Uncharted's not,
that question.
Uncharted's not dead. God of War is probably going to be gone for a little while, but it'll be back. Yeah. And then Horizon's about to, I don't even know, man. I don't know what they're about to do with Horizon, but I think it's pretty clear that they're going to really try to get Horizon going at a higher level. So I don't know if that feeds into it in some way, but then you see things that really temper it, like Loco Roco, which we're never going to get another Loco Roco game, and Ape Escape, which I would be interested to see if they would ever want to revisit Ape Escape. I don't know exactly how you would do it today. I mean, we know what Ape Escape is, so I mean, it could be that, but is there demand for that?
You could just make it a smaller game, maybe, if you want to. I don't know if they're interested in that, but you can make a $30 Ape Escape game that's like 8 hours or something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Ape Escape is so strange. I feel like a lot of like Ape Escape is Ape Escape is one of my favorite games. I love that first Ape Escape, like with my heart and soul, because it's so weird and it's just so like everything from the fact that this child has a man's voice, like this like little kid is like hi-ya, and it's like very clearly like a 29-year-old person. To that weird, to that crazy like electronic soundtrack that is just so good, and the analog controls. Like I think there could be demand for. I was just happy to see. Like I gotta say, like never in a million years did I expect. I expected God of War because we saw that in like some of the marketing. I even expected Horizon and Uncharted in some way. Loco Roco was kind of a surprise, obviously. But I was genuinely floored to see like an entire level based on Ape Escape. I was like, "This is did they just make this just for me? Like, do they have telemetry? Do they have telemetry that like tells them that like this is like a big thing that people are curious about? Because it is a very peculiar pick, one that I'm very ecstatic about. But I don't know. It's just really surprising. It would be like seeing an Oddworld level, you know what I mean, or like a medieval level. It'd be like, really? I mean, I love it, but like, I'm surprised you do.
Ape Escape to me is very synonymous with PlayStation. It was like a huge game, I guess, and I guess it is just like a celebration of particularly that era of PS1. So they probably want to sneak that in.
Oh, for sure.
I thought it'd be interesting if they did. Every world was like a different generation of PlayStation or something like that.
Cool. That is what he did, though.
Yeah.
Which one was exactly the PS2 one? I guess God of War, but it's the new God of War.
Yeah, God of War.
The new God of War, though.
Yeah, God of War was PS2. Uncharted started.
I don't think I even realized that. Yeah.
And then the PSP is Loco Roco, and then the PS5 or the PS4 is Horizon, and then PS5 is.
I would have liked it more if it was old God of War because it's new God of War.
That's true. I think the PS2 is just the game. You know what I mean? Like the PS2 love is like really just what the core game is. Because like Ape Escape to me, like it feels like Ape Escape is PS1 clearly, and then Astro Bot as just a general kind of collectathon kind of platformer. That was PS2, at least in the style that we're seeing from Astro Bot. Then PS3
in a clean style. I mean, there was a lot of platformers on PS1, but they were not clean. A lot of them were. No one wanted to play that shit on PS1, and we were playing a lot of other stuff.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I played it fucked up.
Well, I mean, like obviously Crash and Spyro and all that kind of stuff, but it was an action machine, a fighting machine, a role playing game machine. Platformers were on N64, in my opinion.
Yeah. But that was the generation, is what I mean. It's like that was the generation for platformers, really. Like you had, I guess, Jak and Daxter and Sly on PS2, but like PS2 and that entire generation was more like, I feel like that was more for. I don't know. That was like more like Metal Gear and like, I don't know, like Halo and God of War, like, you know what
God
I mean?
of War,
Like,
yeah. So
yeah.
that's why the second world is God of War, because he represents PS2.
Yeah, I didn't even make that connection because it's as was said, it's like not the right God of War, but that makes
it's not the right one.
That makes sense. It would have been really fun for them to kind of go back to the old Kratos, in some sense. It probably isn't really resonant with the game, What he's gonna go fuck some chicks and they're gonna,
yeah, no Twisted Metal either.
Right,
Yeah,
that's another one that's missing. I wonder what that's all about.
There was a Sweet Tooth bot in the digital art book. So
so he'll come probably. Maybe they're gonna time that DLC with the next season.
Probably DLC. Time with the Twisted Metal NBC Peacock show.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that the Twisted Metal Peacock show is one of the 5 biggest shows that's ever been on Peacock, which says something about Peacock, I think, more than Twisted Metal. But I thought Twisted Metal was pretty good nonetheless. Better than it had any business being, I'll say that. Though I wish, as I've said many times, and I said it to Jaffe, I wish they stuck with the actual theme of Twisted Metal, which is like this insanity is happening now, not in the apocalypse, like where everything's fucked up. What's fucked up about Twisted Metal is that these tournaments are happening in real life.
Yeah.
Like that would have been fucking fun as hell and a totally different show.
People are going to work at Burger King while this is happening.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like the old game Smash TV. That was what was so fun about that game to me was it's like, this is a great idea. Or the game Monday Night Combat. Remember that? It was an Xbox 360 game.
Monday Night Combat.
We're like kind of imbuing it into society. Like this is something that just happens, And it's like, there's just these crazy fucking vehicular combat tournaments in your neighborhood right now.
Monday Night Combat is a wild pull for you to make, because that's like a multiplayer like only game.
Yeah, what I loved about that game was I didn't play it very much. What I loved about it was just the idea. Like, again, Smash TV really spoke to me as a kid because I was like, why aren't we doing more of these things where it's like it's a meta about a game in the real world that's insanity. And you're watching it or participating in it. And I thought that the game, the name Monday Night Combat is superb. What a fucking name, dude.
We should have that in real life.
Yeah, like exactly. Like what a name for a game. I remember thinking that from the beginning. I was like, damn. I hear those every once in a while. Like all the games I've written, I'm like, the names are fine. It's like, that's a name, Damn.
Yeah.
Wish I came up with that. All right. What do we think about some of the powers? I liked so for people that are, know, I mean, you've listened this far. I hope you played the game or it's been really, really spoiled for you at this point. Obviously they give you like some of the backpacks that shoot you up or shoot you over or whatever, but I love the frog gloves a lot. And I really enjoyed that. And then the other thing that I really thought was kind of subtle and I wish they used more, you could see an entire game based on this actually, is the time stopper or the clock that slows down time.
I love that
dude, there are those shots where like you're jumping up coins at a slot machine. I'm like, this is fucking dope. This is so dope. This mechanic is good enough to, it's basic mechanic, but good enough where an entire game could be framed around this about slowing down time to use it as platforms and to get through these 3D challenges. So I really enjoyed that.
There was that one
as well.
ghost that's like vomiting like plates and spoons and shit. And then so you slow down time to like fucking jump on the plates and spoons and shit that he's vomiting out. Like, what the fuck is going on?
My favorite little seasoning or little flourish in that level specifically was that one enemy that throws the cards at you.
Yeah,
you have to like jump.
Yeah,
and you have to jump up the card, and if you do like the double jump, it cuts the cards in half.
Yeah.
And it's just like, this is sick. This is what I mean. This is what I mean when I'm talking about like, I love physics in video. Like I'm so like, if 3D platformers was like the first time that I realized that I was like, oh, I really love video games. Things like Halo and Half-Life were like the second time where I was just like, oh, physics are crazy. This is so sick. And so like seeing a game, like granted, this isn't a particularly physics focused game. There's not really any puzzles like based on physics, but the fact that they even bother to pay attention to details like that, like being able to like cut the bamboo in any kind of way, or that your jump is a laser and then it cuts the glass exactly as it would, or it cuts the cards in half and the cards fall realistically. And there's even like some levels that I think almost take advantage of the fact that like they know that people playing this have probably like the same strange autistic fascination with this stuff, because they just have like Lego pieces like raining down, and then you just get to run and move them and like feel it into the controller. And I spent a weird amount of time doing that. I'm not gonna lie, but I love little touches like that. Little touches like that were moments where I was like, this is fucking. Again, like Goaty, I don't know. For me, probably, dude. Like there's just there's so much detail here in the entire experience. Like I mentioned early on, that shrink power was so cool because they really put a lot of detail into that. Like there are parts of that level specifically that feel like just like, you know, scenery to just kind of flesh out, like, I don't know, the look of the level, like the flower pots or whatever. And you're like, oh, or whatever. And then you think, oh, wait, I can shrink. I wonder if I can jump on the leaves. Oh, you can. Oh, and there's a coin at the top. And it's like, it's made for that. And like all these, it's so, even when you're in like a little place that you shouldn't be able to get out of, and you try to grow, and like he like hits his head, and they really thought about a lot of the ways that the systems interact with each other,
or the way that you have to break out a bot in a cage, and then the way you break the cage is by growing.
Yeah, you just grow. Yeah, it's
so awesome.
It's any game that gives you a tool set and sets you loose into an environment that is fully reactive is just an easy win for me. It's like an easy way to get like my immediate support and fascination, because it's hard to do. There's a lot of games that, you know, you get an ability and then you think like, oh, I wonder if I can do this, and the answer oftentimes is no. You know, the answer oftentimes is no. This ability was designed for this very specific thing, and that's what you're going to use it for. That's what the fucking game is. And so, you know, the fact that this game, as even in its simple scope as a 3D platformer, where you're just kind of jumping from point A to point B, has some of those details in it is, it's great. Just shows a love of game design.
There's so much detail, like you're saying that, Chris, even just with the bots, like almost all the bots have like a unique animation. If you hit them, they do something completely different. Like, what is it? Snake under the box. He like has like a magazine sometimes, or he's popping out with like his pistol. And Richter, when you hit him, he gets snapped out of his trance and hits the skeletons. It's like they all have something like that. That's to me where I was like, you guys didn't have to do that, but it really goes a long way in my opinion, showing that 100%. TLC, all that stuff.
Yeah, I liked running around the crash site and just seeing everyone. And there was something very, at first with the gotcha stuff with the coins, I was like, oh, this is like, why are we doing this? Like, this is how you're going to spend your currency. But then I'm like, no, this is great. What else do you want to do? You know, there's like really nothing else to do. This actually gives the coins more meaning than in most games where you're getting another life or another piece of health or whatever. So I dug that, and I dug how, you know, you had that little, first of all, it was funny. Like every once in a while you get like a can, and it would be like a waste of your money. But I loved when you were done in the gotcha thing, you did like 20 of them, and then you went back to the world and it showed you specifically like where everything went, so you can go and kind of explore. And then you would go up to each of the characters, and I think they would have a little gotcha icon saying that you haven't gotten their thing yet, so you want to get their full animation or whatever. So it was fun to unlock all of that stuff. I before I forget to ask, is a little bit of a non sequitur, but are there 301 bots? Because I saw that there were 305.
There are 305,
and I don't know where those are or who they are.
The other 4 are the additional DLC characters that were added to Astro's Playroom. You go into Astro's Playroom, you find them. They're fucking crazy to find. They're ridiculous to find. Just go to PowerPix and look that shit up. And that way they're easy. But then that's how you get the last 4.
Okay.
So I do have 305.
Nice.
And it includes like, well, I won't tell you that. I won't spoil that, I guess. But
no, I mean, whatever. Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
One of them is another fucking Bloodborne character. So
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They should have done a Bloodborne level. That would have been a big middle finger to everybody. I would have loved that. Yeah,
that would have been funny as hell.
Here's your 60 frames per second Bloodborne.
Yeah.
Losers.
That would have been funny as hell.
I knew Chris would love this game though, because Chris really communicates what he loves about games really well, and I vibe with that. because we're both Halo fans. We both love seeing. I think something activated within both of us when we saw the Warthog just bounce off like walls and like the ground and everything like that. And like, yeah, that's great. Every game should fucking do this, right?
Yeah.
And then so when I play Astro Bot and I see all the physics happening, and it's like, man, I wish more games would play around with physics like this, as opposed to, and again, I want to say I love Horizon, but like, and I'm talking about building a different game. But what if Aloy was just bouncing off these dinosaurs, and it was just a much more physical related activity to taking out these dinosaurs, as opposed to hit the weak spot and dive underneath and use these different weapons. I don't know.
You better like Horizon. Sure. You're not going to get another game. If Herman Hulst is listening, and he's not going to like this very much if you don't like Horizon. You're not going to get any more games from Sony. He's going to cut you off.
Herman, I love you. I know you get a lot of pussy. I know you do.
Yeah. He strikes me as the person that does. Yeah. No doubt. Chris, you were going to say something?
No, but I did want to say that, like, I mean, physics is a big reason why I love games. And to be fair, like, I don't want to get anybody confused. There's not like a ton of, this isn't like, Half-Life 2 or anything. There isn't like some crazy
Tears of the Kingdom shit.
Yeah, it's not like a crazy like physics focus. It's just like the little touches and the little flourishes that are there that don't need to be. Like, there's no real reason for those things to be in the game other than they just add a little something and they make it feel a little bit more real. It makes it feel a little bit more consequential. And it's just fun to fuck around. It does make
like cutting the lasers with cutting the cards with your lasers does make it more dangerous. It does make you more mindful. Like, okay, well, next time I'm not going to use my lasers and I'm just going to try to platform these the proper way and just punch that dude, which is so fun. And that's like that's like Metal Gear Rising levels of action, except that you're doing all of it. No,
exactly, yeah, and just wonderful game design on display here. I don't think there was a single level where I just wasn't having fun, which is like a really high amount of praise, I think, because I do feel like a problem with a lot of modern games, and I've said this so much it's probably annoying to people, but like I do feel like a lot of games just overstay their welcome, and it's so nice to play something that, like, I platinumed this game in like maybe like 15 hours. I think at least that's what the PlayStation says. I don't know how accurate the clock is. Whatever. It feels accurate. It feels right, and it's just like, man, that's such a respectful amount of time. Like it's not like, oh man, I sure hope you're excited to spend fucking 60 hours platinuming this 3D platformer. It's like, no, I don't need this out of a game like this, and I love it. I love that we're getting more of these. Granted, a lot of them tend to be remakes of older things. I talk a lot about Resident Evil 4 remake and Dead Space remake quite often when I talk about this kind of thing. The pacing of late Xbox, PS2, early 360, PS3, and how like that's just such a good sweet spot for me. Like the 7 to 15 hour game is just cinema to me. But yeah, no, I just, what a respectful game of your time.
Yeah, respectful. That's a good word to use. Respectful of a lot of things. Yeah. Respectful, I think, of people's patience. Again, I would love difficulty mode, new game plus mode, some sort of thing to play through the game and make it harder.
Hard mode would be dope. I think.
Something. That's my only complaint. And again, I think it is so friendly and approachable that you don't want it to be fucking crazy. But I would argue that even the core like golden path in the game, if you just played it straight up, didn't do the extra galaxy, didn't do those little optional face button missions that really frustrated a lot of people. The game is, I think, maybe just a tad too easy. But I think a lot of it is just about the approachability. And people in PlayStation, it's. I think people overestimate how much people migrate between platforms. I don't think that happens very often outside of enthusiasts, because people don't have the time, the money, or the inclination to be like, I'm going to buy an Xbox, a PlayStation, and a Switch, and then I'm going to play everything. That's not what normal people do. And so maybe this is a game engineered towards PlayStation players that don't play these games and might have a bigger problem than a Nintendo fan getting through Mario Odyssey, which, by the way, I wasn't crazy about Mario Odyssey, but I know a lot of people like it.
Odyssey's so good, man.
I thought it was boring and sterile.
What?
Yeah.
What?
That was the last
How
Switch
do you
game
think
I ever
that game's
bought.
sterile?
It just seemed like a lot of the space. It was. I have this one stage in my mind. It's somewhat deep into the game of like a desert. It's not that deep, but like this desert stage.
The desert's like the first world.
Oh no, that's not what I'm thinking of. Then maybe I'm thinking of the wrong place. But it's this huge space, but there's nothing going on in it. And then your eyes are attracted towards these. It's like a big Mario 64 or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, tighten it up. You know,
they do.
Tighten it up.
I get
Nothing's going to be better than Galaxy, but I played it for 10 or 15 hours, and then that was the last Switch game I ever played. So
well, you gave it a fair
that was 7 years ago.
That's all you could ask for.
7 long years ago.
For what it's worth, I actually agree with Colin on Odyssey, and it kind of goes back to what Chris was saying about I don't want to play a 60-hour 3D platformer and platinum it. That's what Odyssey is. It's 100-hour.
If you want to get all the moons,
where you have to platinum it.
Yeah, so, and it's also blurry because it's running on a
Switch.
Motorola Razr, essentially.
60 FPS though. 60 FPS.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
just one Mario.
The thing that I really, I mean, we talked about it early on, but I just love the fact that we're getting a game like this with no compromise in that way. You know what I mean? Like I often think about Tears of the Kingdom and because I was just so fascinated with the way that game was designed and like the physics of it and the way that it invited you to break it. I'm just like, ooh, this is so good. I wish this was on hardware that let it shine for like it's frustrating to see great Nintendo games stuck on choppy machines that just don't feel like they deserve it. It's I don't know how to describe it other than that. It's like it's weird.
You don't deserve it.
Yeah, like it's weird. Like I feel like there should at least be I get the economic realities. I understand why things are the way they are. I just like I wish for like a perfect world where you could run Tears of the Kingdom on more powerful hardware legally.
Legally, yeah.
I know you can, and believe me,
also,
I have.
It'd be great if Tears of the Kingdom was designed from the ground up with more powerful hardware, you know? So the game allows you to do more things or make more things or just has a lot more going on besides what's there, you know? And that's what Astro Bot points to the future or the potential of. It's like, if you just make more games like this with the fucking PS5, imagine what else you can do, you know? Look at all the physics with the cards. This is just the beginning, boys. You know?
Well, that's what I think was so special about this game and playing through it was just like, man, it reminded me of the PS1 where at the time of the big, machines in the race, PlayStation was a more powerful machine than the N64, at least from what I remember. I remember specifically Spider-Man by Neversoft, which I love that game, by the way. But I remember playing the PS1 version and then playing the N64 version later on and realizing that, like, oh, the N64 version doesn't have fucking cutscenes.
Yeah,
that's crazy. It's just... it's just
CDs have more memory, so they can have like audio and full video and stuff like that.
64 had more bits though than PlayStation. It just shined in other ways.
Right? Yeah, I guess. And obviously the Dreamcast came at that point and was way crazy. But it felt good to just play like a 3D platformer that was fun and just like pure joy, on a machine that really allowed it to really shine. And it's special shit. Team Asobi, in my opinion, has like really jumped the ladder as far as like my like important PlayStation first party studios. Like this is now like a really all-star team to me. Like I never actually played the Astro Bot VR game.
Oh man, it's so good.
Oh man,
I've heard really good things about it.
It's still the best one. It's still the best game. It's still
that's
the
crazy.
Best game. Yeah, it's still better than Astro
They got
Bot.
to port it to PSVR 2. I don't know what
they got to port.
I don't know what they're doing with that. 'Cause I would play it. I would play it.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not going back to. Well, my PSVR doesn't even work anymore. I threw it out actually, but it because I remember Chris, like a few years ago, I was like, I'm gonna play this, and I was like really excited, and I tried to plug it. I'm like, fucking thing doesn't even work. You know?
Yeah. And then I
don't know what was broken about it, but it's.
Yeah, and then I sent you mine, and then some random child got it, I guess.
Like it's Sony's last thing that they do with VR is just re-release a rescue mission on the VR2 or on fucking Steam at least,
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is like I remember playing Astro's Playroom and being like, this is really good. This was a really solid bundle in kind of game. And I remember I felt like it was kind of special, but like not like this. There's something about this that like feels, I don't know, next level. And I'll admit, like I was very skeptical that Astro Bot really had anything to it because I don't know, on the face of it, you're looking at it, and on paper, even the concept of this game like should suck, like Mondo dick. Like it should like, oh, we're gonna build a PlayStation, and it's a bunch of these like minion characters, and like, you know, you'll run into characters that you recognize, but they're not really the character. They're like minion versions of the characters. Like nothing about it on paper kind of works. And then you play, and I remember wondering, like, is Astro Bot anything without the connection to this PlayStation nostalgia? Because that was like something that I feel like Playroom really leaned into. And I think this one leans into it a little bit, definitely like at the beginning and at the end. But I really feel like the meat of Playroom was like this nostalgia. Like, ooh, look at the memory card. Like, oh, look at the fucking GPS or whatever the fuck, you know? And it's cool and it's cute, but like I wondered, like outside of that, do people really resonate with this? Do people give a shit about Astro? Like if Astro Bot took place in his own world that didn't have anything to do with like a DualSense controller, like would people care? And I guess I still don't know the answer to that question because we don't really have that quite yet.
I think so. But Rescue Mission doesn't really have.
Yeah, so that's the difference. Rescue Mission doesn't have any kind of PlayStation like history kind of thing. It's just his own thing. And so I want to talk about Rescue Mission a little bit. It's unique. The reason why it is probably, I put it next to Half-Life Alyx as one of the most innovative and unique VR games ever. And I would place it alongside Mario 64 as this is as innovative to VR as Mario 64 was to 3D games, right? What Astro Bot does is it turns your head into the camera, and the game world is built around your body, and you are turning your head around to find like secret passages and levels, and Astro Bot is following you the entire time, and he's looking at you for guidance as you're using the controller that is visible in the Rescue Mission world, and you're guiding him along, and you can see the controller. So it really, really places you inside like Astro Bot's world, and it makes you feel like you are a god using a PS4 DualShock controller to control this little guy around, and you're helping him along, and you're making sure you're keeping an eye on him. That's like a revelatory experience, and it has nothing to do with any PlayStation character.
Right. Really, you know, really I mean, cool. That's valid content because it's a game that I just don't really have any experience with, and it's also just, quite frankly, it's of the Astro Bot games that I know of, it's the one that I've heard the least about, and I think it's largely because it is a PSVR game.
Yes, that's why.
VR. That's why. So that's why when I played Playroom, I was like, yeah, this is okay, but it's not Rescue Mission.
Yeah, that's fair, I suppose. I guess. So
that's why when I played Astro Bot, I was like, okay, so that's what Astro Bot does, because they said Nicholas Ducey said we're not going to put Astro Bot in VR because this is designed differently, and the difference is that Astro Bot VR was going to put you in the game world. What Astro Bot PS5 does, it makes it feels like you're reaching into your PlayStation 5. So that's why the DualSense has all the controllers, and that's why it feels like you're like doing all that stuff. So it feels like you're reaching into your game and reaching into the controller. So they're really trying to create this like all-encompassing body experience that goes beyond like 3D, and they're trying to achieve something closer to 4D, right?
I guess the way that I read it, or the way that I kind of analyzed it was, okay, so they did their own thing in VR, and it's apparently really good, but I didn't really hear anybody talking about it, largely because PSVR is just not really all that popular. It's just kind of stuck on hardware that is just, for all intents and purposes, just not very ubiquitous. So to me, when they jumped into Playroom and they were like, let's make it all about PlayStation, that kind of felt like, from the outside looking in, it almost felt like, well, that game that we made by that relied heavily on just like being its own thing didn't necessarily... Yeah, it almost felt like we were reaching in for something to elevate this because it didn't reach the heights that we wanted to reach. That's how it felt, like looking from the outside and having not played Rescue Mission. And to see it again, kind of, although albeit less, this game does rely heavily on like other PlayStation IP, but not nostalgia in the same way. I really feel like any of these games, like I would play a God of War game based on that level easily. I would play like a Horizon game, like in front to back, played like the Horizon level in this game, or like the Uncharted level.
The Lego Horizon game might just be that.
Dude, I have to say, man, like, yeah, this has me pretty. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be different, but this has me a lot more excited and interested in that Lego Horizon game than I was before. Now I'm just like, oh, maybe there is something here that I think is really only difficult for me to appreciate because it's taking itself so seriously, and maybe this focus on just the joy of play and just like, this is just fun, really allows it to just be what it is, and it just kind of invites you. I feel like this game invites you to love it in a way that a lot of other games really don't. Like, I don't know how to describe it.
What? Oh, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, I just want to shout out the boss fights in this game. I think the boss fights are really good, and like some of the best in a 3D platformer that I can think of. Like, they're really well done. Really well done. Lots of mechanics, lots going on. Really fun spectacles to watch, man. All of them are great. I looked forward to fighting every single boss every time.
The different phases were cool.
Yeah, they crushed it as far as I'm concerned on boss fights in a 3D platformer. No one, in my opinion, has done them as good as this.
Yeah, no. I think I think, like Colin mentioned earlier, they are easy. They're not challenging boss fights, but they are really
but they're
fun
interesting.
They're interesting. They're fun to participate in. Like that chameleon one, I really loved because that's the slowdown. That's the slowdown time one, and there's so much character built into every single one of these, every single one of these fights, and it's just so. Again, this feels like a modern, PS1 game with all the flourishes that like modern hardware would give you. It's just like, here are these like big set piece boss battles, and they're fucking fun, and they're fun in a way that they couldn't be on the PS1 or on the PS2. But yeah, shout out to the boss fights because they're really fun to just witness. I was smiling, like I was smiling the whole time, but like during those boss fights, I was like, this is so cool. I do wish that what Colin said, like I do wish that they didn't give you that extra
life
buffer. Yeah, because I
think if you had only one hit, that would have frustrated way too many people.
I agree with you there, but that to me is just I agree with you there, but it seems inconsistent to be like, now you just have random. It's like video game. It's like, who cares? But it's like, now you just have hit points. It's like,
I think it's just because the boss fights are kind of long. They're not super short. So I think it's just a battle with frustration. To me, this game is a mass appeal game. They're just trying to get a lot of people. They're not trying to appeal to
Agreed.
The hardcore, I guess, like us who are looking for a harder challenge.
I love the point about the bigger, smaller Mario, though. That they probably could have. There's probably a more elegant or clever way to hide the fact that you have 2 HP now versus.
Oh, sure, yeah.
They could totally do it. Just having two little robots follow you along.
Give him some armor or something that comes off like Arthur.
Yeah, exactly. Like Arthur.
Yeah, Arthur. Yeah. Or have some damage on him.
I love the Wako Taco fight against the octopus was really funny. Just 'cause you're beating the shit out of this.
Yeah, it's
thing.
Awesome.
His goggles are getting all fucked up. He's got like boxing gloves on his tentacles, which I think is so funny.
Yeah.
And then I loved the Falcon McFly fight, the bird.
Oh yeah, that's a standout one.
That's like really, really. I mean, again, these aren't difficult at all, but like just figuring out the mechanic to them and being in them, it's very, very enjoyable to do these boss fights. Very, very nice.
Yeah, and then they pair well with the cool little special abilities that you get. The fucking chicken rocket pack, and the dog rocket pack, and the frog boxing gloves. I mean, it's all.
Yeah, I did feel bad sometimes though. Because,
just saying these words, chicken rocket pack and frog boxing gloves are great.
I did feel bad sometimes though because like you're really bludgeoning these things. Like it feels like it almost reminds me of like the cartoons I used to like when I would watch like Powerpuff Girls and like. Mojo Jojo would be like lying down at the end of the episode and his brain would be hanging out.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, this is kind of brutal.
They deserve it. They fucked up his PS5.
I almost wonder, like, there's part of my brain that sometimes that was like, are you guys familiar with that Meet the Pyro video
the
from
TF2 stuff?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember all those videos.
Part of this almost felt like there's a real version of this and it's not pretty. like there's a really like photorealistic version of whatever's happening here, and there's like a really like crazy looking mech beating the shit out of this bird in a really unholy way. And this is like the lens that we're seeing it through.
The rainbow lens or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but then this Mecha just fucking punching this bird's eyeball.
Yeah, just like he's like fucking the bird's helmet up, and bird's just trying to fly.
He's minding his own business as far as I remember. He was just flying.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to shout out to the game, and this had come up earlier, is kind of finding everything in the game. I do think, and I said this on Sacred, that playing the game deliberately and doing everything in a space before moving on is the best way to play it. That way you don't have to backtrack and stuff like that. And there's nothing that forces you to backtrack. It's not like you need something later and then you have to return Metroidvania style to go and get this stuff. I do really appreciate, as a completionist and as a trophy hunter, how much this game reads. And there are just so many little things that I think can go a long way in subtle game design. So what I mean by this is you go to a stage, there's 7 bots and 4 puzzle pieces, right? You find one of the bots, it's the second one. And you're like, all right, I missed one. You know? Little things like that mean everything when you're trying to find collectibles in games. And the other thing that I want to compliment the game on, although I didn't realize that this is heavily fed by the fans, is the game help for the game in game. Like if you go to the cross media bar and you go to game help, is the best that's ever been in any of these games. Most games don't use this stuff. It's really only first and second party games that even bother to do this. But there are fan kind of sourced or crowdsourced videos to find every piece of puzzle, every Astro Bot, and all of the rest. And they're upvoted or downvoted by people. And some of them are a little clumsy, where it's like someone dies and then they get it or whatever, and you have to kind of like wait. It's like, all right, let's fucking go. Like, what are we doing? But I really dug that. I found everything in the game without ever going online. And that's unusual. That's really unusual. I did have to go online to find how to do some of the random trophies, like get a picture of Lara Croft and Nathan Drake together, or
totally.
Like I didn't know how to do that stuff. But everything,
I had to look that one up too. That's the
finding all the bots though, and all of the puzzle pieces. It's all in game. It's all organic. This is a this is why I picture as PlayStation gets hopefully more Steam-like, where you never have to leave the platform to get everything you need, so that hopefully we get to a place where there's a real community hub for every game. There are guides and videos for every game, and you could do it all on the cross media bar. I think that would be really cool. So for people that are interested in the kind of that meta level of gamesmanship, if you're a completionist or a trophy hunter, you're really going to find some cool tools in this game that don't force you to go outside, which is really, again, incredibly uncommon. And I know it's a lot of work to implement this stuff. We don't do that kind of stuff on our games. I mean, we make small games, but I dig it. So I wanted to compliment them on that. And just the way the game reads, like the galactic map, you press the square button, it shows you have a little crown icon. It means you don't even have to worry about that place anymore. If you're missing a puzzle piece or an Astro Bot, but everything's done, you know that you have to go back to the galaxy and kind of fly around and find one of the random asteroids or one of the comets and run into it, and it'll create a new set of worlds and all of the rest. So I just think that the game internally reads well. That, I think, is the most remarkably old school part about it, is that games used to have to be constructed in some way like this, not to help you overcome obstacles, but to read, to show you what you're supposed to do. And this game is a masterclass in the small things. And God, especially Chris knows, because I go on and on about it all the time. So many games, God of War is always my big example, the new God of War games. They miss all the small things. It's like, you guys did all the expensive, tough things. And then it's like, yeah, but the menus suck. It's like, why? Like, why do the menus suck? You have this amazing $200 million game. It's a masterclass. Why do the menus suck? Like, why is the map unreadable? Like, little things like that, it always bothers the shit out of me. Those are the things that are easy. That's stuff that happens after the game's done. You know, to me, seeing a game complete like that means something to me, because it is unusual. Even in the AAA space.
It's elegant, I think, is the way to describe it, really. It's just like, because readability is, I find, like, a problem in even a lot of my favorite games. Like, I'm playing Mass Effect 3 right now, because I'm just like, I finished the first 2 and I platinumed the second one. And I was just like, I guess I'm already like more than halfway done. I might as well. And the readability on like some of the UI in Mass Effect 3 is kind of like rough, dude. Like, in comparison to the previous, even the first one, which was jank as hell. I'm just like, man, it's like over designed, and like it's not as over designed as like God of War. Don't get it twisted. Like, that's crazy. Like that the map in God of War is fucked.
So bad.
But it's crazy.
So bad.
It's crazy terrible.
Why does it have to be so bad?
But yeah, like it's it's a joy to move through a game that is just so crystal clear. Like it's elegant and it's simple and it's not, but it's still beautiful. Like it still looks great and it doesn't feel like it's missing anything. And it's not overwrought with detail. It's not like the maps aren't over designed. The UI isn't a goddamn clusterfuck.
Concord had that problem with the UI. It wasn't readable at all. That's why nobody played Rivalry Mode, because they have all these little fucking symbols next to the characters, and the symbols are supposed to mean something in terms of their class and their role in the game, but the game never fucking explains what the fuck it is. So you just kind of
to be fair, whatever. You know? To be fair to Concord, like video game UI is just getting worse and worse, and like I don't know what the hell is going on. Even just again back to just a really small example. I know I'm trying to stick with Astro Bot, I guess, but like Mass Effect 1 to 2, like even just the map screen, where like on Mass Effect 2, it's like, okay, you open up the map and then it'll give you like an arrow. It's like, here's where Garrus is. Mm-hmm. And then in Mass Effect 3, it's like you get a map and then it has 1, 2, 3, and then you have to look over to this right column and it'll be like, oh, Garrus is under 1. And it's like, why don't you just put that on the fucking screen? It's so like but like bewildering choices like that like build upon and build, and they just pile on top of each other. It's like all the UI designers went to go work for like actual apps or like software companies, and are still doing a bad job, by the way. and all the game and now all that's left are like, I don't even know, like just normal game design people. Like I designed the hit scan weapons. Let me make the menu. And it's like, you can't do that, man. Like I still think about Borderlands 3 and how like the menu lagged.
It's the worst.
Like the menu launch Borderlands 3, the menu ran at like a quarter of the frame rate of the game, and I was just like, what are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, it's strange. I feel like people feel like they need to reinvent the wheel with this stuff, and they actually don't. Mm-hmm. Like
you really don't.
I feel this way about control schemes. I've always said this. It's like we should just have standard control schemes. And when games need to change things because they're a specific game, it's not to say it should be mandated, but it's like X is jump, square is fire, circle is back, triangle is like special or menu or something like that. We should just kind of embrace what works. And what works with maps, believe it or not, is how well they read. This was a big thing with me, why I stopped playing Banishers, Ghost of New Eden. I'm like, the UI in this game is just messy, and it's bothering me. Like, I can't see where things are. I don't know where I'm supposed to go. Just little things like that. So this game really just removed. I realized that actually in the hub world, where it shows you exactly where the bots are that you need to interact with, where the puzzle pieces are. I'm like, yeah, let's just do this. This came up earlier. I don't know if anyone else has a finer point to put on it, but I do want to compliment the haptics. I think that there are a couple games that probably do better, but it always takes the first party games to do it the best. What
games do it better?
I personally think Returnal has the best use of haptics.
Okay, well, Returnal, yes.
The trigger thing, trigger is really cool.
Returnal is the correct answer.
Yes, but this is top 3 easily, maybe top 2, but probably top 3. I'd have to think a little harder on what else is out there, but it felt great. I've dropped my controller so many times at this point that I'm not even sure that it's on a hardwood floor, that I'm not even sure that it's working properly half the time, but the haptics, but I think it is. It feels very loud. My controller is very loud, so something's like loose in it. But I loved it. I love this is a subtle thing that I think a lot of people that play on Xbox, from what I'm hearing, like they realize that they are missing something here. It's not that the comparable nature of the technological advances of the machines and the game catalogs are mostly the same and all that, but it's this controller. And apparently Xbox might be trying to do something with haptics themselves, whether with a new iteration or with the next console. But I do want to compliment them on this. I wish Sony would make it, I don't want to say it's hard, but encourage developers more to utilize DualSense the way it should be used. Because when you play games like this, actually what's funny, Gene, is that the top 3 games are probably Returnal, the Astro Bot bundle and Astro Bot.
Yeah.
So it would be cool if they encourage people more. I don't know if it's that difficult, but it's so. I wasn't a big fan of Rumble when the Rumble pack came to N64 and then you had DualShock.
No,
it was fine, but it didn't enhance. It wasn't like I was like, this just seems very gimmicky. It's surprising that it's stuck around for so long, and now that it has, you kind of take it for granted. But when you get something a little new, a little more advanced, a little more subtle, softer, all the way around the controller. Remember how inelegant the rumble pack was on N64? It's just like, and it's just, and like the whole thing, and the whole thing shook.
Tremors,
yeah, I do like that it's more subtle now, and that's pretty cool. So yeah, shout out to them because I do think it enhances the game in a major way.
I want to talk about the haptics real quick. I'm going to say something, Colin, that I expect will upset you. And I said this to Brad before on Punching Up, and he didn't respond well. And I'm wondering how Chris will respond too. But I did see on Twitch chat. This is not my description of how it feels to play Astro Bot on the DualSense Edge controller or the DualSense controller. I saw this on Twitch chat, on someone's Twitch chat, but I do agree with it. Someone calls playing the experience of playing Astro Bot, it's like receiving a blowjob from your controller.
That's so gross.
And the reason why is because the way I mapped it out, right, is that the N64 Rumble Pack or even like the DualShock or the Xbox controller Rumble Pack, they're just vibrating. That's just like raw, like that, right? The DualSense will have all these subtle movements. It'll tickle like your palm, and it like when 2 acorns fall on your head, you will feel those 2 acorns specifically on those controllers, right? And then there are nuances to like an actual blowjob where there is like muscle control and like lips control and like the way the tongue will like swaddle your
You're going too deep,
Swaddle.
Swaddle.
I'm telling you that you wouldn't respond well to this. But that is the difference though, right? In terms of how Astro Bot does haptics versus like I'm playing Death Stranding right now because I'm always playing Death Stranding, right? And Kojima is one of the forefathers of like interesting rumble technology. For fuck's sake, he did Psycho Mantis, right? But even as I'm playing Death Stranding with all the haptics on, and it just doesn't feel that good, Like you press L2 and R2 to like hold the straps, and then like the triggers will kind of vibrate, and it's like that doesn't really feel like I'm actually holding on to straps or anything like that. It's just vibrating. Whereas like in Astro Bot, like there's just all these little subtle movements. You fly your little ship through the stars, and you can feel all the stars around the controller. So it feels like not really a full body experience, but like it's a full controller experience. And the way they did this is that they have like a brick that represents the DualSense, like in their studio, and this is like an experimental DualSense, and they can see all the little haptics on it, and that's what they use in terms of like determining like how they have like an experimental version of the DualSense that doesn't look like a controller at all. It's just all nerve endings around it, which is interesting.
Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, that's the whole thing about this haptic feedback in the DualSense is just it feels so localized and personalized. And it is, I remember, that's why I think Astro being the bundle in on PS5 is so good, because it's like, damn, dude, this is the capabilities of the machine. This is what it really can do. And then they never really stretch it that far. So, I don't know.
Yeah, the haptics is when playing Astro Bot, it reminded me of how I felt when I got the PS5. It makes the PS5 feel new again,
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about the haptics, honestly. Like it's cool in Astro Bot. I appreciate it, but like I feel like Astro Bot's I feel like I appreciated it in Astro Bot because the developers clearly appreciated it, and I think even like Returnal appreciated it quite a bit too. But I don't know. I think I remember I played. I think there was a Call of Duty that tried to get cute with it. I can't remember which one, where they were like different guns are gonna have different trigger resistances, and I remember being like, No, you're not. I'm shutting this off immediately. What the fuck are you doing? Like, I feel, I think it's cool. I think it definitely works for games like Astro Bot. And it would be cool to see more games to utilize this in some way, because it definitely is better than like just playing with like a normal controller. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know if it's the DualSense controller, like the build or the layout or the form factor or what, but like there's something about the form factor of the DualSense that bothers me, that kind of in some way negates the positive feelings that I have for the haptic. Like, I almost feel like, oh man, these haptics are really great. I wish this was on an Xbox controller. Because I just think it's just like a better. I think it's my preferred layout, though. To be fair, just the offset sticks I think just work better for me. But Astro Bot is definitely like the best outside of Returnal. I think Returnal kind of takes it, but Astro Bot's definitely like the second best, utilization of it. I think.
Yeah, because
Star Wars Outlaws doesn't do it too bad actually. It's not like Returnal level, but if you turn the audio on, because I love the speakers on this thing, so I hate the speakers on. I love that shit. It reminds me of the Wiimote, so that's why
I hate it so much. I hate plugging it in. Like every time I try to give it a shot, it's like, all right, you know what? Let me try the DualSense on my PC or whatever, and then it just fucks my entire audio settings because it's like, did you just plug in a microphone and a speaker? I don't understand. And I'm just like, this is why we keep things simple, man. Give me my shitty piece of plastic with one-dimensional rumble and AA batteries. You're getting crazy with the speakers and the microphones and shit.
Yeah, but
I often forget. I often forget that there's even a microphone on the DualSense, and then I'm like, God, and then I want to share like a clip of something, and then I want to share a clip of something, and then I just hear me like ranting to my friend about like the government or something, and I'm like, I can't share this.
I realize it too. Like I hear my own breath, like I'm just like, fuck, man, it sounds like I'm fucking jerking off.
Yeah, I hit the orange button, or like the mute button, just like as a habit.
Yeah,
when I turn the console on. Although I don't.
I hate that that's something that I have to even think about, though. You know what I mean? Like it's just it's so. I really hate that aspect of it.
Yeah,
but
it's unnecessary.
In Star Wars Outlaws, though, it does have like active reloading for her little pistol, and then when she reloads, the little controller will make a little hiss sound. Like, like
is there?
So it feels really cool. And
is there active reload in that game? Like there's like an active reload system in that game?
Yeah, there's an active reload system in there too. So.
I was always confused as to why that wasn't stolen more often, because it really is mega satisfying. Like
it's very satisfying.
I love that too.
Where it goes,
Yeah, dude. Like when I played that in Gears of War, I was like, "Oh, this is over." Like every game that has reload is gonna have this, and then they didn't. I was like, "Why?" It's so
good.
Game
developers are so fucking proud. They're like, "No, I can't. That's not my idea. I can't copy that." And it's like, "No, the rest of your ideas fucking suck. Maybe you should just copy that, though."
Yeah, that is. I love active reload too. What was the game that did that recently that I played? I don't remember.
I know exactly what you're talking about. There was something in the last couple of years that did it.
There was another game that did that recently. Fuck.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was.
Yeah. Somebody in the comments will know.
Well, let me ask you guys this as we can talk about whatever else we haven't touched upon if you'd like. I'm kind of curious what you guys think about Astro as a mascot. Let me back up. Sony always moves on, and so it makes it really difficult for them to have a mascot. Which I think is good. I think that's actually one of the brand's strengths is like, we're done with this and we're moving on. They do that less now. And I think they're going to do that less than ever now that the games are so expensive. But is Astro like do you think he's going to be like a Sackboy, Crash Bandicoot style character? We haven't really had one since Sackboy. I don't think they really did let that kind of dry up. Kratos and Drake and all these guys are just too adult and humanoid, I think, to have that kind of feel. I think maybe you have that with Master Chief in some sense with Halo, but I'm just wondering if you guys think that there's something here, because I've seen this said before, and I agree with it. It's like there's a possibility that this could turn into a Lego style franchise, not to the size or market penetration, but just this thing that can be revisited, that can be associated with Sony and be played with like building blocks in such a way where it could be the celebration. And that's the one thing I want to say, although I said this on Sacred, is what I love about this is that they have figured out how to celebrate the brand without copying or being derivative of another game. That was the major problem with PlayStation All-Stars. You couldn't unsee it, no matter how good, and it was different mechanically, but you can't unsee it. It is what it is. Or if you tried to even do a really high fidelity 2D fighter, it's like, oh, like Marvel vs. Capcom, and all that kind of stuff. So they found the platform, they found the place where no one's really doing something like this.
Nintendo never made a platformer that celebrates
right
history.
Exactly. That was the craziest thing, is they like kind of like went in the dark of night and we're like, yeah, we're gonna take the most Nintendo genre, and the one that you did your sports crossovers and your Mario Golf and tennis, you do your Smash Brothers, we have the Fortnite fucking metaverse of metaverse stuff and shooters, we have all this stuff, but no one ever did this. And that, I think, is the genius of Astro Bot, and I really hope that people now realize we have the game. As long as they're willing to do it, like we have the PlayStation All Stars, the new play. Everyone's like, we need to have another celebration, like PlayStation All Stars or something. It's like, yeah, we have it. Here it is.
Yeah.
So I hope people see it for what it is and that it's truly unique. So I love that. I wonder if you guys agree. Gene, do you think that this could be a new mascot? Is there potential here for this thing to stick around?
I agree. I vehemently agree that the part of the brilliance is that they were able to turn a 3D platformer, the Nintendo, the marquee genre, into their own thing. And again, like surprisingly, Nintendo hasn't done it. I think that this should be that the mascot. I think they should settle into it. I think they're beginning to. You see the stores in Japan are really celebrating Astro Bot in a way that you don't really see here, at least in the retail stores. But I really do think that they're eventually going to start centering him, and he's always been part. Team Asobi, as you mentioned, was part of Japan Studio, but they were like the research and development arm. So Astro Bot is always going to be integral to, I think, the core identity of PlayStation moving forward, regardless. But I would be very happy to see him as a main character. Sony, that's something that Xbox struggles with because they can't seem to do anything with Halo at all.
Which is insane. But
which is so crazy, which of course is the most frustrating thing about being a Halo fan, is because like, oh my god, this is so multi-generational. There's so much you can do with this fucking franchise and you don't do it. And then so it would be nice to see Sony run with something that could be a kind of like a faceless mascot for a brand.
I think he has staying power in some way, especially now. Like I was definitely curious about it before, because my thought process was like, okay, well, this game seems to be all about, it seems to be in some ways directed towards an older audience. It seems to be directed towards like people in their late 20s, early 30s who grew up with 3D platformers, who also remember like, oh my god, look, it's fucking Abe from Oddworld. Remember Oddworld? And then like your fucking nephew's like, shut up, Unc. And you're like, get the hell out of here. And so like on some level I was like, who is this for in some way? But I don't know. Like as I was playing it and I was realizing that like I didn't get half the references that I was coming across, and I was still having a blast. Like, oh no, there's something here. And Astro Bot is cute. I think the music is great. It's infectious. Even though the theme song is literally Muse.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's like literally Starlight by Muse, but just like faster.
Yeah.
But outside of like a couple of things that are a little bit like dubious copyright wise, like I definitely think there's like, there's staying power here. Like I think this is kind of that thing that you can revisit endlessly, and explore in different ways. I feel like you could fit Astro Bot into so many different places, and there wouldn't really be a question as to. Yeah, Kart Racer. I'm still upset that they never did Uncharted or The Fast of Us, honestly. Like I bring that up so often, but like I just like, it's crazy to me that
The Fast of Us. I've never heard that.
The Fast of Us is so funny to me. Like I would love a kart racer with like Joel's dead daughter ragdolling around in the fucking car.
Jeez.
But
that Tommy driving.
Yeah, Tommy. No, I think I think it's a good character. I think there's definitely staying power in it. I think they found it. Like you don't got to go experimenting around, especially now that your competition's kind of done for. It seems like you don't worry about Master Chief. You're gonna get him at some point. And maybe when more people are going to be playing these games, maybe they'll actually get their fucking shit together and make the obvious layup that they've been ignoring. Like, such a layup to make a good Halo game. I don't understand how you make a bad one, but I think Astro Bot's got a lot of years ahead of it. I think. I really hope this sells well. I imagine that it's not going to. I imagine that this isn't going to be like a gangbuster, like like a blockbuster kind of like, ooh, whoa, what the fuck, 18 million copies in 8 days, Jeb Bush pose. Like I don't think it's going to be anything like that, but I do think it's going to be. I do think it's going to have a long tail.
Yeah, definitely.
I agree. I think it's going to sell well for a long time.
I think a few million ultimately is where it's going to settle, which will be nice. I also feel like it's worth noting that because a lot of people are like, well, I wonder if this game will come to PC. It's like, it's actually, after playing it, unimaginable that it would come to PC. But
yeah,
just because there's so much PlayStation iconography in it, not that they would care, but it just seems so console celebratory that it would be out of place on a PC in some sense. And I do want to shout out that last boss fight, which is really more of like you're just kind of going through the motions, but man.
Oh, yeah.
so great. Yeah.
So good. I feel like the more OG you are with PlayStation, the more it's going to tickle you. And just seeing so many of the fun things, the different generations kind of ganging up on this enemy, and it was very, very cool. It was very fun. Brad, where are you on the mascot question? We haven't heard from you on this. Do you think that he's gonna stick around for a while? Do you think we'll get maybe? I see more potential like a Lego style thing in this. And I wonder if they can really achieve it.
They would be smart to stick with Astro Bot for a little while. He has momentum. People actually like him. It's not something they've had to force down people's throats to get to like. People are into Astro Bot, and they could do a lot with the IP, like you're saying. Like, I'm not kidding when they should do Astro Bot Kart, and you could have all the other Astro Bots in there, Kratos Bot, and riding around with all you. But they just got to be careful about how they release everything. Like, you got to be not releasing something maybe just another Astro Bot every 2 years or something like that, because people will get burnt out. So you got to be smart about it. But I think Astro Bot is great. He can be their Mario. I don't know. People are saying it's better than Mario already, which Mario's the GOAT already. So they got a ways to go. But Astro Bot has potential, definitely more than any other mascot they've had to have mass appeal. I think Sony has had big success, but they've all been very like mature games. Whatever, like your God of War's Last of Us, and I think they need a family-friendly space to get ultimately more people into the ecosystem. Because, everyone thinks now they have a young kid, they're like, I'm going to get them Nintendo because of Mario and whatever.
It's a problem for Sony.
It is. So they need to fill that space right now, and Astro Bot's the best chance they have at it right now.
Yeah.
But they just got to be smart with the IP, and it seems like Asobi has been smart with it, so we'll see how they handle it.
Well, that's why, first of all, I just want to say mature, because Mike and I have been saying that recently. When we say the word mature, we say mature instead, and it's just disgusting. But I wanted to note that my vision of a Lego game is like, I see a game like this, but being built with a more robust hub world, lots of backtracking, where maybe you have 50 actual Astro Bot references. You have Rudy from Wild Arms or Aloy from Horizon or whatever, but you play as them, and they each have a special skill or a set of skills that will unlock things. Like there is a formula here, should they choose to pursue it. And I wonder if that will kind of percolate and tickle more when Horizon Lego Adventures comes out soon. And people realize that, there's a formula to Lego games that's not really replicated outside of Lego games. We have the thing that's closest to a Lego game. So why don't we, and we have, and the gameplay I've played quite a few Lego games, far superior in Astro Bot. So why not focus in on that? We already have that kind of nailed. Now let's really blow this thing wide open, have fewer bots, and have a lot of backtracking and more of that system where maybe you do stick with it for 50 or 70 hours. I don't know if that's attractive to people, because I do like the idea of quickly getting a sequel out, like I said earlier, maybe towards the end of the generation, maybe even a PS5 and PS6 game. But I don't know if it's going to hit quite as hard if it's just an 8-world Astro Bot, as opposed to like let's rejigger things just a little bit and give it more staying power. Make it a $70 game, So I'm amped for them, because I think that I agree with you about Nintendo. I think that I think they've identified this as a problem. I've been saying this for years, although Chris will know that I've been saying it more from like the handheld aspect than the childlike aspect, where I was like, why are you ceding this ground to them? And we were saying this, actually, I just did an episode of Sacred Symbols Plus with Tom from Moore's Law is Dead, all about PS5 Pro. He's a tech expert that would have already gone live. Actually, I think this will go live after this, or after that rather. And we were saying, like, Sony finally figured out that they should make a handheld, but it ironically wasn't Switch that made them. It was the Steam Deck. And to me, that's missing the forest for the trees. Like, because they realized, like, oh, I think they saw the Switch and they're like, oh, look how weak it is. We can't put our games on that. And then they saw the Steam Deck and they're like, our games play on that actually right now. And So it'll be very interesting to see if they can tie all this together, get more of that childlike energy from the beginning of the PS1 era that I think that they've been missing completely since the PS2 era, I would say, in some sense.
Yeah.
Because they tried. It's like, yeah, we have Little Big Planet, but that wasn't really for kids. I don't think kids really bought it. And yeah, we have like Mod Nation Racers and all this kind of stuff, but none of it was, they tried Wonder Book and all of that, but they tied it to the PlayStation Move. They had Knack, but it was not great, and it was a launch game, and it was overwhelmed by a pretty strong launch library. So
Ratchet and Clank started out that way, but then Ratchet and Clank started out kind of nasty, right?
Right.
The characters.
I always talk about that. I hate that. They hated each other in the first game.
They're a little nasty and they're a little naughty. They represent Naughty Dog more than Naughty Dog ever did. And then they try to rebrand them, and then they came out with that fucking movie starring Bella Thorne.
What the fuck?
But they try to rebrand Ratchet and Clank as like, hey, family friendly, and there's a G-rated movie out. So they've been trying, but the quality hasn't been there.
I love you, Ratchet. I love you too, Clank.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, I've been a completely opposition with Colin on that. I preferred when they were just assholes.
I liked it when they were assholes.
Yeah, I don't like the discomfort of them not getting along. It wasn't that they were assholes. It's that because like Jack and Daxter were assholes too. It's like.
Yeah,
but they got along. To me, I just was like, oh, I don't like the tension between you two. Like each other, kiss.
But that's how you knew it worked though, because it made you uncomfortable.
That's true
because you like these two characters.
Yeah,
and
they
kind of didn't like each other. They kept sniping at each other.
Colin only likes feeling uncomfortable in video games if he gets to take the life of a pregnant woman in The Last of Us 2.
Yeah, what the fuck? That's true.
Micah keeps telling me that I only like video games if there's gay people and violence in them. Like, okay.
Gay violence.
Yeah, it's true that there was something challenging about the first Ratchet, not in the gameplay itself, but just in like it just didn't read as a child. They've been seeking this, I guess is what I'm saying. Remember, Chris and I have talked about in the past, like they ordered an entire like 80 episode Sly Cooper TV show and then never aired it. Like I don't know what the fuck is going on over there, but they need to figure it out. And I think instead of going back to the Ratchet, we're gonna get another Ratchet game on PS6, I think, or maybe at the end of the PS5 era. They're making it very slowly. Sly Cooper's dead. Jack and Daxter's dead. So we know Sly's dead because Sucker Punch is like we're the only ones that are going to do it, and it's not happening.
It just hurts still,
right?
Yeah, no, the way you said it, just I have vividly imagined like a decaying raccoon.
Bentley in his wheelchair at the gravesite.
That was surprisingly dark, dude. He gets fucking paralyzed. Yeah. Like, what is this game?
And he's at the gravesite, and he's in his little wheelchair, and Sly Cooper says Sly Cooper 2002 to 2024.
I'll miss you, buddy.
Yeah.
You had a good run.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'll never walk again.
Wait, I'm sorry. Does Sly Cooper actually get paralyzed?
No. The turtle character, Bentley does. Yeah.
Bentley actually does.
Did Bane break Sly Cooper's back? Or
everybody, it's a new Sly Cooper, but Bentley, Sly, and Murray are all paralyzed.
Yeah.
I would play it.
All paraplegic, yeah.
Would it be just... It would just be a kart racer. I
it's
guess,
them in San Junipero,
Yeah, it's San Junipero.
Yeah, to me, I bring these up because I just feel like they need to move on, and that's like in their nature. And so let's not move too fast. Like you have this thing here, and it's been percolating like since 2012, Playroom and all that. So we know Astro Bot. Yeah, I think Sackboy was the last character that they had that was like that. And I don't think Sackboy resonated. He was much bigger in Europe than he was here.
Colin, you know why Sackboy's fucked up for me forever?
Because his name is Sackboy.
well, that too. But the fucking Sony executive that got caught being a pedophile.
Oh,
he was wearing a Sackboy shirt.
Oh no!
When he got caught.
I'll give you a Sackboy.
Anyone listening right now, please don't wear any fucking Astro Bot shirts at night or when you're feeling horny or whatever.
Stop if you're feeling horny.
If you're gonna commit a sex crime, don't brand yourself with your IP, please.
Yeah, please.
You don't need Sackboy or Scrota Lad or whatever other whatever other little characters.
Yeah, I don't want to see Astro Boy on Dads Against Predators or some shit, please.
Right. DAP.
I don't.
Excuse
I don't want to see Astro
me.
Boy. I don't want to see a Sony executive wearing an Astro Boy shirt, getting his head shaved by Vitaly and Sway Lee for some reason.
Getting thrown into a shrub.
I swear to God, she said she was 16.
I was just trying to help her, though.
Yeah, it's Bentley, who's paralyzed.
Bentley, no!
Yeah.
Bentley's paralyzed from the waist down. He's just in it for the love of the game. Yep.
It's like Stephen Hawking on the island.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What are you doing here?
I just like to watch.
Guys, anything else to say about the game? Let's go around and any final thoughts, Chris?
I feel like I'm tweaking, man. No, it's Astro Bot's fucking fantastic. I think I really do feel like this is genuinely like a must own PS5 game. I feel like if this should be in the library. If you didn't grow up with these types of games, if you didn't grow up with 3D platformers, which I'm sure is true for a lot of people, because they kind of, I would say like maybe the PS2 is the last time that they were like super relevant, unless you're on Nintendo, in which case you've kind of gotten somewhat of a healthy dose of them. But even that's really kind of spread thin with it's really just Mario and then some half-hearted attempts with like Yooka-Laylee. I know there's been like Hat in Time and other things, which I have not played.
Yeah, Hat in Time is the last one I actually even played. Yeah,
Cool
I heard
game.
Hat in Time was very good. But yeah, like I just feel like this is just such an elegant love letter to those types of games. I think it's an elegant love letter to PlayStation history. I feel like you don't need to really know what is what to really have a good time with this game. I feel like, I don't know, man, just the lip service that they're playing to certain games, I think is very wise. We were talking about some of the choices that they were making earlier about like, oh, why is it Ape Escape, Loco Roco, God of War? It is a strange choice, but I do feel like the levels do highlight enough different kind of. I do feel like they're all distinct from each other enough to warrant there's this playful attitude. The Loco Roco stage is crazy cool, just because it's so different. And yeah, it's a really gorgeous game. It's a really dense game. It's a joy to play through. It is a reasonable platinum as well. It's just like it's a game that really respects the player. It respects the player's time, and it respects the ecosystem that it's coming out in. And yeah, I couldn't recommend it enough. At this point in the year, I really do feel like it is my personal game of the year, just because it was just such a joy moving through this game in a way that it really I haven't felt that emotion going through a game front to back in a very long time. Although I'm still early into Space Marines, and that's fucking great. So we'll see. But yeah.
Brad, where are you on the final thoughts here?
Yeah, Astro Bot's fantastic game. I think if you have a PS5, you owe it to yourself to check this game out. It's very different than you'd expect from a lot of first parties. If you guys want stuff that's not super serious, Sony first party simulation, sad dad kind of game, show your support to this game. It's excellent, deserves your support. And if you want more experiences like that, smaller kind of things, you gotta let Sony know with your wallet. And yeah, this is just, I think you should totally play this game if you have the opportunity to. If you have a PS5, you should go out and buy it right now. It's a great game. You're gonna have a great time. Anyone can hop into this game and play it. It's simplistic enough to understand, but once you get into it, there's quite a bit of enjoyable depth to have there. So yeah, check out Astro Bot. It's fucking great.
Gene, final thoughts.
Yeah, Astro Bot was so good. It really fired up my appreciation for PlayStation history. It inspired me to go into my closet and reconnect my PS3. And I thought I lost my PS Vita, but I found it again. And so I decided to turn on my PS Vita and play around with that. So it made me remember that the PS3 and PS Vita stores are still active, even though they're falling apart. Thank you, Mystic Ryan, for all the reporting that he's done over the last several years, chronicling the slow spiraling death of the PS3 store. But it's still there, and you can still get games. I was able to. What did I get? I don't know. I forgot. Yeah, it's been fun to kind of revisit PlayStation. I play Infamous again.
Oh, nice.
That was a lot of fun. I still have my Infamous save on my PS3. I didn't own a PS3 until later because my roommate had the PS3.
Similar thing.
Yeah, so I got the PS3 later, and I was delighted that I played enough of Infamous to complete it, and I played enough of MGS4 to complete it, and those saves are there. But sadly, my original Demon Souls saves is completely gone, and I never really owned Demon Souls in the first place. That was my roommate's. So I actually contacted my roommate to see if he would sell me his copy of Demon Souls, which was the copy I played, just so I can have it.
Did he say no?
Yeah, I think he's gonna give it to me because I did give him a fairly rare magic card several years ago, and he never paid me for that. So
one nerd hand washes the other nerd hand.
That's exactly that's why he's my best friend. You know? Awesome. And I don't fucking play magic cards, but so I just gave him mine. You know, so yeah, I think he's gonna give me his copy. Which is nice.
Well, my final thoughts on the game are really in line with everyone else's. I think this is a remarkable game. I think Brad's right. Like you need to go buy the game and if you want to see more of this kind of stuff, because it's the only message they care about. We saw, especially in the Insomniac League, how many games everyone loved, and then they sold nothing. And that's why you don't get more Resistance. That's why you don't get more this and more that. Listen, all I hear, so The Last of Us, it's too good. Oh, the Horizon, it's too good. So here's a little something different for you to play. And for you to enjoy from the first party. And I think you're really going to enjoy it. It's great for the whole family. It's very approachable. It's very accessible. It's a pleasure to play. It's, I had in my notes here, the game even did make me feel something like different, like an emotion, as opposed to just like the fun of it, which was when there's a stage, like an underwater stage where they have a starfish chained up.
Oh,
you have to release it. And I'm like, this is so sad. Why are you doing this to the starfish? He's all like miserable looking and he's all like against the wall. I love that. So even if you like your feelings, you have a few feelings here in Astro Bot as well. And of course, the nostalgia is overwhelming. I mean, we went into it a few weeks before the game came out because it was leaked, but we went into some of the characters that we knew were in the game. We told everyone we were going to spoil it. But even knowing that someone like Rudy was in the game, when I encountered him, Rudy from Wild Arms, I was like, it's one of those things that's just going to like make you feel good when you see the random character from the random game you love. Like when I saw the flower, I was like, that's so fun. Like the game made me smile, and I was like, oh, it's cute. Or again, like the imp from Dreams and all of that. And then the characters, you're like, who is that? Or I don't know quite who that is. And you go look it up. There's something really enjoyable about it. I'm looking forward to seeing how they support it with expansions or DLC. And then I really want them to move on. And I hope they do. And I just have a good feeling about this game's sales. Again, I don't think it's going to be, we all said it, it's not going to be the PlayStation 10 million seller, 20 million seller. No way. But I think it could sell a few million copies. And I think that they're going to be really happy with that. It's $60 a piece, 60 people making a game for 3 years. That's money made. It's not the kind of game that they're going to want to do too much of, but that's the beauty of it, is that you don't need to do too much of it. You can have your Horizon multiplayer game, and you're going to have The Last of Us Part 3, and you're going to have fucking Death Stranding 2, but this is different. So show them that you want it. It's important. And if you can afford it, of course. And for those that want to wait for a price drop, I'm sure it'll inevitably come. The one thing that I think is bullshit, by the way, just as a postscript, is people saying that this game was originally supposed to be bundled in with PS5 Pro.
No.
I'm like, that's not true. Way. There's just no way that's true. They wouldn't do that. That's the exact opposite of what they want to do with games, which is they don't want to make it seem like anything would be exclusive to one or the other. So it's not like because I think some people be like, oh, they're just nickel and diming us. I'm like, guys, come on. Like, this is what you've been saying you want, right? Like something different. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there you go. And again, if The Last of Us is too good for you, and Horizon's too good for you, and it's just too good of an idea. Oh, the robot dinosaurs, it's too good of an idea for you. And The Last of Us, it's just too emotionally compelling. Then this will be a little bit more your speed. And so
can't let it go.
I'm not mad at Colin because I know he's talking to a specific group.
I don't know. I'm really only.
It's funny. Yeah, he's just fucking around.
Yeah, he's not talking to me because I actually like The Last of Us and Horizons.
No, I'm talking to just people out there that hate everything, but that's fine. Actually, another game on the console that has no games. Chris, you wanted to?
Oh no, I was about to say, like, I actually just re-downloaded Zero Dawn just because I'm like, I should just polish this off.
Yeah, no, this game inspired me to pick up Forbidden West. I think I'm going to play Forbidden West eventually. I only played that game once.
Oh,
I fucking love that game.
I love that game. I think that's the most beautiful game I've ever played.
Yeah, it's still a showcase, and the PS5 Pro review. They showed a little bit of zero Forbidden West, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that game. I should play that game. I should play that again. But yeah, this was not going to be a PS5 Pro. This game is not technically advanced. This game was not meant to be like a technical showcase.
Right.
This game doesn't even have ray tracing reflections. It just has screen space reflections. So this was never meant to be.
Gross.
Yeah,
Get that trash out of here.
What the fuck?
Screen space reflections. Ew.
But go play Astro Bot, liberate that starfish. He needs your help.
Yeah.
Really enjoy it. We've had some complaints about it, but again, I would think those are nitpicks and minor. I mean, I do think this is one of the best games of the year. I just think with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, it's just not going to surpass that for me. And but I'm really interested to see if people put their money where their mouth is as such when the voting comes. I think this game could very well win. I'll be interested to see if that actually comes to pass or not. But it'll certainly be in the conversation.
I think this is the critical darling. I think the issue with Rebirth, which a game I love and was my game of the year, is that it's too divisive. I think people the story itself is too divisive for people. I think Rebirth has about as many gameplay ideas as Astro Bot does, which is incredible for both games. The Astro Bot has so many ideas that it has enough ideas to match a fucking 120-hour epic like Rebirth, but also Rebirth has so many fucking mini games that I feel like that in itself is its own little Astro Bot universe of games in and of itself. So I do think that Rebirth and Astro Bot versus Astro Bot is a pretty compelling debate there.
Yeah, 2 PlayStation 5 games as well. It's again good year for a game with for a console with no games.
Right.
But I'll be interested to see how it all. It's funny because Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I think, actually has overt problems, and it's so good otherwise that it overwhelms the problems for me. And I personally love this story. Like, I love what they did. I think it's fucking crazy. I won't get into it here, but it was staggering. So anyway, we'll get to that. There's a few more games coming out this year that might contend. Who knows? But things are shaping up nicely. Well, guys, I appreciate you joining me today for a conversation, a nice meaty conversation about Astro Bot. Let's go around the horn and say goodbye to everyone. Chris, goodbye to you. Sleep well.
Oh yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I've got a day ahead of me. I fly out to New York in a couple days, so it might not be a bad thing to kind of fuck my sleep schedule anyway, because it'll be ruined anyway by the jet lag on some level. But yeah, I'll see what the day has in store. I'm just hearing Bentley in my head now.
Good.
Honestly.
Good.
Yeah.
Sly?
They hit the Pentagon, Sly.
They hit the Pentagon.
I can't walk, Sly.
Brad, goodbye to you, my friend. Be well.
Goodbye. Thank you guys for inviting me to talk about Astro Bot. It was a pleasure chatting with you all. So thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Thanks for being here. And Gene, goodbye to you, my friend. My friend, thank you for taking the time to talk to us today.
Goodbye to you too. I'm gonna go play some PS3 and that surprisingly small DualShock 3 controller. Have you guys picked up a DualShock 3 controller recently?
It feels so weird when I hold it now.
What the fuck happened to our bodies? Like, do we just get bigger? Is that what happened?
It's crazy.
Because how the fuck did we hold those controllers in the?
I feel that way about the NES controller, where I was a kid, obviously, but just being an adult, it's like, wow, these controllers are so quaint. And I remember the 6-axis controller, which is the same mold as the DualShock 3, but it's like I feel like I could break this thing in half, literally.
I have the 6-axis controller, so so I feel like I can break the thing in half. It's ridiculous.
I broke one at IGN by smashing it on my desk when I was playing Heavenly Sword and getting mad, and I didn't break it, but it wouldn't work anymore.
That's an awesome story.
Yeah.
I broke my controller playing Heavenly Sword. That thing was frail as fuck, though.
It was.
I remember. I remember when it was new and going over to a friend's house and playing it and being like, "What? This feels." It almost felt like, you ever go to an IKEA showroom and pick up
the fake computer or whatever. Yeah.
You pick up a CRT TV that looks like your brain's telling you that is 50 pounds, and then it's like
that's perfectly
completely weightless.
Yeah, it's like a fake controller in the Arrested Development house or whatever, you know.
It's a model. It's a model controller. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a model. It's a model PS3.
It's just so funny to me, like how everyone hated the Boomerang. They never released it, and they're like, "Fuck, what are we gonna do?" You know, and they're like, "Well, we'll just use the same mold as the other controller."
Smart move.
They had no time, which is so funny. Especially they were originally going to release PS3 in 2005. And they would have really had no time at that point. But God, the Boomerang would have been an abomination. So it's good that they didn't do that.
Rough shit. I still think the DualShock 4 is probably like the best form factor controller that they've ever made.
I like the DualShock 4. I like the DualShock 5 too. It's heavy. And it hurts I remember when we first got them, it was hurting my hands, but I guess you adjust,
I had to adjust for sure.
All right, my friends. Well, thank you again for
wide. That's why, because the sort of offset on the Xbox is fine, but then in here it's wide, and your left thumb is always like stretching, So that's where my strain comes from, at least.
Do you know there are versions of that DualSense 4 with offset sticks at Japan, or was that Japan Studio? When they were talking about all they have, because I remember asking them like, "Did you guys mess with the offset sticks?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we messed with it a lot." But they ended up not doing it. I don't think they wanted to look like they were copying Xbox. I don't need that though. I'm perfectly comfortable with where they are. It's all just about what you're trained for at this point, I think.
Yeah.
All right, let's get the hell out of here, guys. Appreciate you. Have a good rest of your day, good rest of your week. Thank you all out there for your love, kindness, and support of all things Last Stand Media, Sacred Symbols, etc. here on Patreon, patreon.com/Last Stand Media, early ad free access, laststandmedia.store for merch. We'll see you next time. Until then, goodbye. Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Colin's Last Stand LLC, and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show is conceived by, is written by, and is directed by me, Colin Moriarty. My co-hosts are Chris Raygun Maldonado and Dustin Furman. The show is produced by executive producer Dustin Furman. It's edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by my best friend, Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand's shows, including Sacred Symbols, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest tier, and we're grateful for your thoughtful and kind contributions to our independent endeavor. Thank you.